able to flame killer on DPS. Howdy, Apollo. How come they said that?
Going on name hero.
So warm up.
Yeah,
Like that.
Hey,
that's the
Apollo.
name. 5 seconds, just pick it.
Like that's. Great.
Alright, what do you want to do?
Hey,
What's the
Apollo,
main thing?
in our group. What a fucking thrower, dude.
What? I'm still on name hero. We starting?
Yeah, we're starting. What main tank? You guys going? Good Diva or Zarya?
Eagles,
Or...
what DPS do you want to do? Do you want to do Sombra Genji again?
Yeah, again.
Or would you rather me play like Hanzo for like consistent DPS and you go like McCree?
We can do that too.
Okay, so it looks like our first
it depends
thing
if we're playing.
we're looking at here is leave a comment here. So yeah, it looks like we're still needing a little bit more comfort with our hero choice. We're still kind of looking over this and saying to ourselves, like, who are we going to pick? What do we want to do? I'm feeling like at this point, as far as we are, I know that we haven't had enough time to practice as much as we'd like, but what we're looking at is we're still kind of debating and discussing what we're doing in terms of our hero choices at the very beginning. And I get this is the first match, and we're all trying to get, warmed up and everything as we go into this match against another team. But we should be able to look at Nepal Village, say, all right, cool, this is Nepal Village, this is who we're comfortable with, this is what we should be running in this instance.
Or do you think they're gonna run goats?
What are we doing?
5 seconds, just pick it.
They'll probably run goats, to be honest.
If they run goats, we can just split them off up top and then dive to whoever made it through.
Am I playing main tank? Oh,
If he can.
Yeah.
I'm not as good as you at main tank.
oh guys.
If we're doing this, do you
Feel bad.
like Zarya?
Alright, yeah.
Yeah. Alright, then what do you want to do? Keep us.
I don't like playing goats though.
You know goats is lame.
I don't know why Badger likes
Oh, it's goats. It's
not
goats.
even like the win condition anymore.
I think they're play goats. 2 goats. Are
Top right.
we going top bottom? Or,
We're going to
We top, I
Top,
guess.
top, top.
They're gonna beat us
Ooh,
there. They're gonna
okay.
beat us there.
I'm not good at least.
So there's a slowdown right there. We should not have. We exited the entry point, and we were discussing the viability of goats, which meant we were delayed in deciding which path we were going. We actually should have been going in there, like that discussion that should have been happening is post character selection should have been character selection. All right, which path are we going? That way everybody is on point and ready to head that direction right away.
Get the run first.
that's done.
Yeah, nothing.
This guy's on the brig.
Diva ate my anti.
This guy's on the right.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's rewind just a second here. Take a look at that fight.
Ooh, okay.
Beat us there.
I should've gone.
See, we go in.
I'm not good at least.
Get the run first.
There's no callouts here. Right, we come in. We engage in the fight itself.
condition anymore.
I think they're play goats. 2 goats. Or,
Top right.
are we going top bottom? Or,
We're going to
We top, I
Top,
guess.
top, top.
They're gonna beat us there.
Ooh,
They're gonna
okay.
beat us there.
I should've gone. I'm not good at least.
Alright, so right here, the team got no information. Right? We assume they're running goats. Sure. But even a call like they're running goats and then calling our first target would have been vitally important to this first engagement. We're looking at, yes, they've got a Reinhardt, yes, they've got a Diva, but we've got a tank that's front and center, right? He's the front line defense because he's our shield, but but we've got nobody talking about what characters are playing, what they're doing, and that's probably just going to cost us the fight.
Get the run first.
Got stunned.
Instantly melted.
This guy's on the big.
Eva ate my anti.
This guy's on the right.
Yeah, they're playing Zen guys. So.
Yeah, that's the way. That's what we need to do.
Could you on Lucio? I'm not good at it, but I can try.
No.
I'm like full charge.
I'll have to fall back.
We do need
Alright.
to do though.
We need Lucio.
We just need to go main straight to point right now.
See, I think right here, what we're looking at, after the fight itself,
Instantly melted.
everything falls apart.
Eva
We
ate
drop
my
down.
anti.
This guy's on the right.
Yeah, they're playing Zen guys. So.
We've
Yeah,
got,
that's
we've
the
got,
way.
a,
That's
we've
what
got
we
a
need to
wipe
do.
right there. Effectively, that's just a wipe. Right.
Could you on Lucio? I'm not good at it, but I can try.
So we try to get back up, but everybody rushes out immediately afterwards. They've already got the advantage. They're coming, trying to move into our spawn. They're trying to stop us there. We should have taken that moment. You know, it's just the control point unlocking. Losing a few seconds wouldn't have been a big deal, but we needed to pull back, regroup, make any changes that needed to be made, and move forward from there. We can still push out, even if they're trying to keep us, pushed into the point.
No.
I'm like full charge.
I'll have to fall back.
We do need
Alright.
to do though.
We need Lucio.
We just need to go main straight to point right now.
She can switch to Lucio.
Oh, do that.
Yeah.
We should be
Just come
ready
on, let's
to Zen Lucio over.
I'll take the run away. He's flipping me back.
I get the.
All right, so it was great that the dash was pulled off, but there was no communication about what the move was. There was no call-outs about what the target is. And I know that everything is decided in fractions of a second here, but
She can switch
even if you are in the middle of the charge, even if you grab or
to Lucio.
do grab somebody, you need to like
Yeah.
immediately say like, I've got Ryan. We need to call out like who the next target is. It's
I'll take the run away.
the play may have been good, but it was
I
messy.
get the. Push Ryan.
We lose our Ryan in the process.
This guy's on the right.
And-
Ryan's low. Ryan can die.
Everybody
This guy's on
falls
the Diva.
again.
Diva low. Diva 50. This guy's on the Zarya now.
Hello?
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah.
See, even there, our callouts are getting better. They're stronger. We're actually hearing the callouts now, but we're falling behind. We've got, two people off the board. Our other two tanks are off the board at this point. This needed to be a regroup. This needed to be a fallback, re-engage, and focus targets.
I'm gonna grab and probably switch Pharah, dude.
Yeah, we can go different thing. We don't have to go.
Or like Reaper. I think I'm gonna
Yeah,
grab
'cause-
and switch Reaper.
Yeah, Chris does not like to play Lucio.
Do you want break? I can Lucio.
Let's
I can ult here, but my shield's almost down. My shield's almost down. Keep following.
This guy's on the Diva.
I'm the shield. That thing's done me.
I have grab for free.
All right, let's go back and look at that.
Yeah, Chris does not like to play Lucio.
Do you want break? I can Lucio.
I can ult here, but my shield's almost down. My shield's almost down. Keep following.
This guy's on the Diva.
See, it felt like a good counterplay, but
I'm the
again,
shield.
at this point, we should have known we fed their ults. Looking at that entire move, we could have reserved our ults, let the Zarya done her thing. Yes, we're still at 50%. It just feels like we're at a point where we're engaging for the sake of engaging and not focusing what we need to. We should have had the forethought at that point in the fight at 46% after losing 2 fights. They've probably got ults. They're going to try and stop us using ults here. Like, what do we do to counter this? Like, we need to be having that discussion as we go through and we make these plays of how to course correct ourselves
That
mid-fight.
thing's done me.
I have grab for free. They probably have
Alright.
stuck here.
I have B, yeah.
Reset. Are we switching up? You got 50-50. We're gonna switch to
No. Not yet.
go.
Let's just go main again.
Yeah.
There's Zarya above.
Yeah, she's right above us.
Yeah, Zarya's above.
Right here.
Tied band as well.
This guy's on the right. No, this guy's on the right.
Get the Ryan.
Okay, so now it starts to feel like we're being able to take an advantage and call targets, but we're not hearing those targets being called often enough. We're so kind of busy bantering back and forth. You know, yes, we're getting the important calls like, you know, so and so's up here, you know, and check this, but we need to get those focused targets, right? We need to give our tank some direction where he should be guided to.
Start band as well.
This goes on the pen. This goes
Get the run.
This goes on the Zarya.
Go
Let's
right
go right
side,
side.
right side of brick, right side of brick.
This goes on the break.
I'm charging in, charging in.
I'm big.
There we go, right there. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier.
This goes on the break.
I'm charging in, charging in.
I'm big.
You've called your charge. The team knows what you're doing.
No
They're
more,
able to
no
back
more,
your
no more.
play.
There's a diva on the
That
left
was a
side.
smooth play right there.
I'm down. I'm
This
down.
goes.
Careful.
And even though Diva was the only thing on point, just noted for the record, I know that she was the only thing on the point, but we should not be lapsing in our callouts during that junction. It should still be, you know, Diva's on the point, Diva's out of mech. Don't forget the basic mechanics when we're going into these engagements. You know, it's easy to slip up just when you're got complete control of the point, you've wiped the team, and it's just kind of clean up on aisle 5. But overall, when it comes to those simple mechanics like those callouts, it's important to do them even when you have the advantage. That way, you're not forgetting them during the most crucial moments when those big engagements happens. When we have those big team fights, and all of a sudden the team goes quiet, it's these little habits we've got to get ourselves out of.
We cannot split up.
Yeah,
They
we're
play
good.
around.
Together.
Yeah, I have chance.
They're going top, they're going top.
Play point.
Yeah.
They're going top. Let them go nose.
Let me know if you think she's gonna grab. I'll try to eat it. I can't see right now.
Okay. They drop our side.
I might grab the wall.
I'm coming in now.
This goes
I have shatter.
This goes on the right.
Dude,
All right. So again, we're at a point in the engagement where I'm happy that we're communicating what the status of our ults is, or are, but we're not hearing enough callouts for what the enemy's ults could be. We got the possible Zarya there, but where was the, you know, Ryan may have his shatter ready by now. That could have easily avoided some of what happens in the next scene.
Okay. They drop our side.
I might grab the wall.
I'm coming in now.
This goes
I have shatter.
This goes on the right.
Dude.
Into the experience tranquility.
They're gonna grab. They're gonna grab now. You.
Okay, there it is.
Roll on me in the room. Doesn't grab.
Damn, I just got my grab.
Ow.
Nope. Nope. Before we even go any further on this one, the icons are there for a fucking reason, right?
They
We
drop
go in,
our side.
we take
I
point.
might grab the wall.
I'm coming in now.
This goes
I have
Play point.
Yeah.
They're going top. Let them go nose.
okay.
Swear a little bit here.
They drop. I'm coming in now.
They're gonna grab. They're gonna grab now. You.
Okay, so everything goes clusterfuck here. We see one person go down. Our tank rushes in.
Roll on
Okay,
me in the
but then we see our brig drop
Damn, I just got my
and our Zarya drop.
Ow.
There's no reason for this engagement right here. After you saw a couple of those people drop, it should have been straight up, let's go ahead and reset. We do not have the power to win this fight.
Yeah, let me try it. See if I was waiting for that
And there it is.
bomb to come out. That was a good second.
I mean, I know that there was a contest problem. The timer was already running down where it is,
We need to have those
but
swaps
I don't know.
before we do it though. Like we should.
It's a tricky situation.
They're gonna grab now. You.
Watch that.
Roll on me in the
Yeah.
Doesn't grab.
Damn, I just got my grab.
Ow. Okay, can't do anything.
I almost wonder if that point, if we should have just said, you know, this isn't winnable.
Yeah. let me
Let's
try
go
to
ahead and
figure
accept it, move into next round.
I was
What are they
waiting for
playing?
that
What can we do to counter it at that point?
bomb to come out.
Yeah,
I
I
was
see what
doing,
you're saying, Apollo.
uh,
Like, I see that you just kind of went
second
in there
half
and
of
you were
that
low
match.
on
I just
time.
figured out what we're doing.
I'm just wondering, in that instance, um, if we should have just regrouped. Like, sometimes it's almost better to take the round loss, right? Because you can go in there and try and stagger the point, but we should be kind of asking ourselves, hey, like, is this worth our time, or is our time better spent losing the round? All right, what are they running? What do we do to counter it? And go into the next round almost kind of refreshed, I would say, right? I mean, I get your mentality. Again, like as a Reinhardt player, I totally understand. Like, hey, we got to get in there. We got to like get this thing into overtime if possible. I just think that so early into the scrim, maybe are a little bit more time to pull back and consider our next move would have been the better course of action.
Score zero.
We need to have those swaps already in
Mhm.
mind before we do it, though. Like, we should know what people are comfortable playing before we
Ah,
switch.
excellent point right there. I didn't even have to say anything. We should know our swaps. We should absolutely know what we've got, what we're comfortable countering with, like top to bottom. Once we did look at those. Yeah, and that's great. Like I haven't gotten there yet. Where I'm just kind of taking it start to finish. So, like I'm not trying to like beat on you, Apollo. I know how good you are, and obviously I know how good the team is. But if we're going to be doing this open division thing, we gotta tighten things up a little bit, right? I said earlier in the video that it seemed like we were a little bit too rushed, even getting to our hero selection. We shouldn't have had that question, right? We should have seen, hey, we're in Nepal. This is where we're at in Nepal. These are the heroes that we're comfortable playing in Nepal. Let's move forward with that and switch as needed. It's a common theme that I'm seeing a lot when we're going through a lot of these scrims. That question's always asked, like, hey, what are we doing? What are we going? Even coming out of the gate at Nepal, right? It's a question of, are we going left? Are we going up? It should have been a little bit tighter than that, right? You guys should be getting to a point of comfort with each other's play styles. It was like, all right, we're doing this comp. Let's go top right. And before that gate opens, we should have had that plan in mind, those heroes already picked, and getting ready to run that engagement. Because a lot of people have that are higher than us have that mentality. That's true. I can see that. I can see that. I mean, if Beta's saying that we have a lot of tanks and are a lot of off tanks and a lot of main healers, that is something that if the team is having difficulty deciding who is playing what, then we need to have a powwow, right? We need to have a meeting night. We need to sit down with each other, not just on a scrim night, and discuss, let's make a list, right? We should have a spreadsheet with us. Who's playing what? So that you can have it up on your second screen, of like, all right, this is our spreadsheet of the team. This is who's playing what. This is who everybody's comfortable with. Can we make a roster out of that? Or do it by, section, right? I mean, I can sit there and I can work out, possible configurations for everybody, but I need to get the initial data, right? I need to get the initial spreadsheet in front of me saying, okay, this is everybody's strengths, weaknesses, this is who they prefer playing and ranked in order, and then we'll go ahead and try and construct things based on that. As of right now, what we're doing is kind of going in, making our choices and seeing what's happening, which is making it feel a little more like quick play than like high level comp.
Because, like, we all knew Chris doesn't play this yet.
Yeah. So now let's switch it up now.
Yeah, I'll play this, yeah.
Just
Do you
how
want-
far I'm at, honestly.
Yeah, so
If they're gonna run goats, like, I don't know. I kind of want to run Reaper or, like, May. But,
So Reaper, you get more.
See, and there's another situation which we've talked about in the chat before where we say, if the majority of players right now are running a GOATS composition, what do we do to counter GOATS? And this is again coming down to our comfort, not with our own hero selection, but with the hero selection of everybody around us. I feel like with a little more pre-game discussion in Discord, hey, if we're going to run anti-GOATS, what's everybody good with? What is it? What are the 5 best anti-GOATS configurations, and which one fits our play style the best? I think that what I'm seeing a lot in here as we play is, while we are all very talented players individually, this is almost like the Dallas Fuel situation all over again, to be honest. It's one of those that we all recognize that we have very good players on our team, but a lot of us are very good at individual plays and not team plays. So coming into this, we should have had an anti-goats configuration set up and said, all right, let's go in there and do this. And that's really something, as like I said, going to Discord, having these conversations, a couple days out before the games. That way we're prepped and ready to go.
Yeah. May just does.
I can bet the prayer if they have a prayer.
Well, if they have a far, or you can get her. Unless they have far or mercy.
Yeah.
It's gonna be harder.
They're not gonna have a mercy, I doubt it. I missed that.
Ryan's discording.
Run.
I'm trying.
Zarya's discording.
The drop back.
Reinhardt's half.
Recharging my shield real quick.
Zarya's one.
Pop Zarya back a little bit. Put your shield up.
I think
We lost Meg. Back up. We lost Meg.
got their mag.
They lost back too.
Zarya down.
Good
Lucio
run.
weak, Lucio weak. I'm down here.
Break.
Lucio's one.
Dude, their fucking Zen was 1 HP, man.
I'm down.
We lost Meg.
Got their mag.
They lost back too.
Zarya down.
Good
Lucio
run.
weak, Lucio weak.
Good.
I'm down here.
We've got good callouts. Obviously, you're calling out, or Apollo's calling out here that, he's weak,
Not
he's
here.
probably going to die.
Break.
Stun.
We have two different callouts happening here, which it's hard for me to want to go against this because I know that I've been saying so much that we're having problems with callouts, but we're almost having the opposite problem here. So we've got two callouts. We have one for the Brig.
Lucio's one.
We have our one for the Lucio.
Dude, their fucking Zen was 1 HP, man.
Right. We've got the Zen with 1 HP. So we have callouts happening, but we don't have as many focus callouts. It almost feels like we're calling out for the sake of calling out and not getting the target focus that we need. I think we need a little bit of practice on the actual concept of switching targets, because we go into an engagement, and I'm guilty of this myself too as an Overwatch player. You get into the middle of engagement. In your mind, that engagement, that person that you're fighting directly in front of you is your target. That person will probably kill you. But we don't stop to think if we turn to the left and focus fire on that Brig that's discorded, on that Zenyatta that's won. We're very tunnel visioned in that sense. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about this concept of being really strong individual players, but having a little bit of a rough time with the overall team game. That we go in, and our engagement is always the most important engagement. We need to get out of that headspace. We need to be not only making our callouts, but also following through on them, right? Because it is two different skill sets to learn to do that.
I'm down.
Diva's on me behind.
We're spawning 3 of us.
They get trance.
They're trying. We get out.
I'm trying to go. Okay, they killed me anyway. Don't go in. Back up.
No, we're backing up.
FP,
We're
next
backing
fight.
up.
I have fans.
I don't know. I'm not.
Again, where's the possible callouts for ults? Do we think their Ryan's close? Obviously, because if our Ryan's close, they're probably ready for a shatter, right? Just little things to keep in mind.
Not effective with my beads, so should I use it to engage fights, or once I see our rank get low?
I think this
Dude,
time
it
we
looks like
engage
it's
it.
in the fight.
Yeah.
We're ready going?
just probably
Ready
just
going?
around. Yeah, let's go.
We ready?
Can we? You gonna try fatter?
Yeah, he's trying to shatter. He's
Oh my god.
yeah, he's gonna wait for his turn.
It's alright.
See, that's the Ryan Diva combo over there, right? Like that's the bread and butter of a Ryan Diva combo. And I think that I've seen ourselves in the situation where we've run a Ryan Diva and we're not utilizing that one very simple. It is the mechanic that sells the Ryan Diva combo. We're not really utilizing that when we do go in with those particular heroes.
Heal me, I'm here.
Oh my god, dude.
So you said that that was the enemy team's game plan the whole night, right? They threw bomb, they stunned and charged, and that's a viable strategy, right? If they see that that's the weakness of our team, it shouldn't be a question of, oh, they're cheesy and they just do this one thing. There needed to be a discussion at some point within the evening while the scrims are going on. If we're noticing that that's their one strategy, if that's the one thing that they can do to stop y'all, your win condition at that point becomes how do we stop this thing from continuing to happen? Because there are counters to it, right?
All right, reset.
I ulted because I was gonna die.
Let's go right side.
We need to use our ults this fight though.
I'm going with Apollo. Apollo's on the ground. down
Follows it. Okay, okay. Come back. Come more then. Come more.
All right. Let's focus
Yeah, he's
targets.
still shattering.
I'm gonna bomb behind him. No. Yeah, I'm bombing behind him.
That's good.
I'm a Lucio.
Lucio's dead.
Got the Ryan. Get a point. Get a point.
I tried.
Big.
I'm a D.Va right now.
Ryan.
Zara behind. Zara behind.
Behind? Where about?
All right, so I'm gonna go back a couple seconds here because I feel like we almost need to be more critical of the fights that we win sometimes.
All right.
So during this engagement,
Focus
Yeah, he's
targets.
still shattering.
I'm gonna bomb behind him. No. Yeah, I'm bombing behind him.
it's a great hammer.
I'm a Lucio.
Lucio's dead.
Got the Ryan. Get a point. Get a
The rush
point.
in, which was a bad move.
Tried.
Big.
I'm a D.Va right now.
Ryan.
The problem there was, and I don't want to call you out too bad for this, Apollo, but yes, the charge was bad. It also forced the team to have to change positions to you, whereas I don't think that we needed to be on point right away there. I feel like what we really needed to be doing is finishing off that engagement. We already had, a kill or two during the engagement. We should have been following through on that and then taking the point while they reset.
Zara behind. Zara behind.
Behind? Where about?
Right side.
Right side. There's one in.
Got her.
Good call out.
Big.
D.Va still.
DVD.
All right.
I'm halfway to ult again.
Alright, I saw a beat.
Push up a little bit, guys, with Apollo.
Hey, be careful,
Okay,
'cause they
back up.
like just pin you.
We have Lucio. Beat us out.
Yeah.
Can they go in?
Yeah, that's it. Kuda, if they grab, I'm gonna trance, okay? Don't stack it.
Okay, got you, bots.
I almost have Shatter again. Wait, who's?
Fuck, dude,
Oh,
the team just turned on me.
God.
Back up a little bit. Run.
Push in,
Oh, I got stunned.
I'm on Ryan. I know, I'm on him. I'm here.
That would have been a good time to.
Back up a little bit. All right.
So we take
I'm halfway to ult again.
Alright, I saw a beat.
push up way too far.
Push up a little bit, guys.
If we were all GM and all playing with each other every single night, I would be like totally push up into their point and grab this. At this point, we need to be dialing it back and playing a little bit tighter and just holding on to the point.
With Apollo.
Hey, be careful, 'cause
Okay, back up.
like just pin you.
We have Lucio. Beat us out.
Yeah.
Can they go in?
Yeah, that's it. Kuda, if they grab, I'm gonna trance, okay? Don't stack it.
Okay, got you, bots.
Okay, so we have Beta right here, and Beta is trying to set up, get one of the support characters in the back. Now, typically, I would be like, this is the best thing we could be doing at this point, right? We've got somebody in the back, somebody trying to take out their supports and making it easier for us to do cleanup on aisle 5. But, as we will see,
I almost have Shatter again. Wait, who's?
Fuck, dude.
Oh,
everybody was able to turn on Reaper right away, and that means we are down a hero in the fight. That's going to be problematic, especially because it's a strong DPS character.
Turned on me.
God.
Back up a little bit.
I think that what we should have seen with a little bit more communication. And let me just go through and do this again.
Can they go in?
Yeah, it's it. Kuda, if they grab, I'm gonna trans, okay? Don't stack it.
Okay, got you, bots.
So this move right here could have worked if we had a couple of factors, right? One, yes, he's in front of us and we should be able to see him, but we should have heard something like, "Hey, I'm going up behind trying to attack supports," or "I'm going behind," or something like that. That way we knew to back the play. Second, I almost feel like this move itself should have probably waited just a little bit because of this factor right here. That charge ends up, you know that they're going to be coming into the point. You know that you're going to get a couple hammer swings off. We should be thinking about that fact and saying like, wait a second, give me a second to get hammer, then go in behind them, right? You should be able to get your charge, knock them all down, and then beta should be in that back line and just start dropping them one by one right there. And this is all, like, these mechanics obviously aren't strange or new to anybody, but again, it all comes down to comfort level with each other, right? We're communicating, but we're not communicating the right things that we need to be hearing at that point in time. We're not trying to set up plays together, and we need to be doing that, right? Like, we need to be setting up these plays, not just, Beta's going to go in the back and we just assume that, he's going to be fine. Beta's a great player, but if nobody's able to back Beta's play there, then we've got an issue.
Almost have Shatter again. Wait, who's?
Fuck, dude,
Oh,
my team just turned on me.
yeah.
Back up a little bit. Run.
Push in, push
Oh,
in,
we
help
got
him
stunned.
out.
I'm on, I know, I'm on here.
That would have been a good time to sound barrier.
Yeah.
Okay, got you, bots.
No, they just died. Everyone died.
Yeah, just get up.
Yeah, I mainly play flex support, so I can play Lucio to the basics, but my...
Yeah, I'm not good at Lucio either.
I can play Lucio really well, but...
So this discussion, I know that we've already talked about it several times in the video as we've been going through. When we have things like our roster set and we look at what each hero's strengths and weaknesses are, if we know what each other's playing and what one another's good at, then I feel that we will reach a point where we're not playing a Lucio for the sake of playing a Lucio because this map says a Lucio is best for this, right? That's the wrong mentality to have. Yes, a Lucio may be best on this map, but if our people are not good with Lucio, or they're not as familiar with mechanics, or don't know how to skate around walls, Lucio's effectiveness drops to 0 at that point, right? We are better off, you know what, fuck it, let's run an Ana, let's run, a Mercy, whatever we're comfortable with, because at least then we have our players playing at peak performance, to make this super sports analogy for you, then we do kind of going in there unsure of ourselves because, oh crap, do I need to switch off of speed over to healing? What do I do? We're playing a meta. We think that we're playing a meta, but we're really letting the meta play us at that point, if that makes sense. We're doing what we think that we should be doing and going, well, why didn't that work? Obviously, the internet says a Lucio is the best thing that we should be running on this point. Why isn't it working? And the simple answer for that is just, we don't have players that are capable of playing that hero. Therefore, we should not be playing that hero. Just flat out.
Yeah, no, the thing that I just struggle with the sound barriers.
Yeah, I remember bringing it down.
We lost Shatter that fight.
We will here. Let's go.
Alright, we almost got a lot of ults too. They got grabbed.
They got the whole team.
Oh fuck, my bad.
That's a good grab.
For the record, that should have all been expected. I always want to leave it at that. We should have had every call.
No, the thing that I just struggle with the sound barriers.
Yeah, I remember bringing it down.
We lost Shatter that fight.
We will here. Let's go.
Alright, we almost got a lot of ults too. They got grabbed.
Okay, they got grabbed. There it is.
They got the whole team.
Oh fuck, my bad.
That's a good grab. That's a good one.
Oh, okay, I have exploded.
91. We gotta get back.
Yeah, I have ult, but
We're not gonna get there in time.
Can't touch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. If we can't, like, if we don't have a good Lucio to run, we might want to run something that does involve Lucio.
I mean, I
telling
could keep.
you, I think we should just run 2 DPS instead of just trying to mash their goats, honestly.
Well, let's try it. This is, I mean, this is practice.
Like,
You know?
This isn't working for us. Let's try something else.
I walked in the backline and killed their D.Va as she ulted, but y'all died to a bomb, and, like, that's inevitable when they break shield.
Plus,
I mean,
none of
worst
us-
comes to worst, if I practice, I could just use it as practice. It's not a big deal.
Plus, none of us are that confident on Lucio except for Beta, so it's hard to do goats.
Well, I
I'll
know
get
how
you
to
Lucio.
play go. I know how to play Lucio goats. It's just I don't. The only
map?
thing I struggle on is sound barriers.
What map?
But that's just because I'm inexperienced on it.
What map?
I don't know. Hum's our team captain. Choose. Wait, I don't know what maps are available.
I just want to throw this out there. If we're having a question of what map we're going to play, we're in the middle of Open Division right now. Pick every map that we're going to be running in Open Division.
Is Hum there?
He should be.
I don't fucking know.
Hum? Jacob? Hello?
Hanamura, Volskaya, y'all choose. It's not me.
Hanamura or Volskaya, guys? Pick one.
It is
3 seconds.
Hanamura. And Jacob, it is you. You're our team captain. We don't know the maps.
Mm-hmm. No.
So in that case, Beta on Lucio, when is an effective time to use? Like just a general rule of thumb. I know it changes all the time,
During
but
a team fight,
It's-
like, I personally sound barrier as soon as our team is, like, running in, and if I have speed boost up with my E, and my team is, like, wants to push, I'll use it and speed boost right after.
Mhm.
Or during the fight, if I earn it, I'll use it, like, immediately, as long as I have, like, some more people up.
Mhm.
Like,
Okay.
if I have, like, Reinhardt, or, like, say, like, you want to stall at the point,
Mhm.
you know, like, you're at 60, you want to get to maybe 80, just sound barrier.
I think
for
my
the
mic was
hell of it,
muted
just
that whole
with, like,
time.
a Reinhardt, just to stall it out, because, like, Lucio
Feels bad.
earns it
It
not
was.
too
Slow.
slowly, so.
Yeah.
I'm
just
just if it's still okay to use.
a 5-man sound barrier is gonna be not that much worse than a fucking 6-man, you know?
Yeah.
And especially when our Ryan whiffed Shatter because he died midway. Like, if you saved him with sound barrier and he got the Shatter off, it could have turned the fight.
Okay, gotcha, boss.
Mm-hmm. Alright, let's try something a little different this time.
I'm going to keep coming back to this, guys. We're in the character selection screen, and nobody has any idea what anybody's picking, right? This is... I cannot beat it into our heads enough that we need to get down a roster. And I know that we go on before these scrims and before Open Division and we warm up for an hour, but maybe it would be prudent if we got on an hour and a half early and for 30 minutes just talked in the room. What is everybody playing? What are we doing? Like, you know, do we know anything about the other team and what they run? You know, if I need to do a little bit of research on these teams beforehand, I will happily do that if it'll help out. But we shouldn't be sitting here at our character select screen and, you know, playing around and deciding what we're doing. At this point, you know they're probably going to run goats. They beat you with goats, you know, in the first one. They're going to go with what's working for them. So the first question that should be asked is the moment this is loaded up. It should be even asked when we're between maps at that point is, what are we doing to counter this? That's the one thing that I want to be hearing is, what do we need to do to be countering this thing?
I mean, maybe not that different. No, I'm just kidding.
I do.
It's on waiting.
I know, I'm just kidding. There we go.
Prepare to attack.
We doing 2 DPS?
Yeah, let's try something different because the goats wasn't working for us that well.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if this works better. If not, we could always go back to goats and just practice that.
That's the question I have because I haven't played a lot of or watched a lot of available stuff. If it's still all goats, or if it's kind of tending to be
Yeah, it's all
a
fucking
little bit
good.
neutral.
Yeah, contenders is still goats.
Yeah.
Like, it's all goats, but, like, those teams are good enough to not run goats and beat
Yeah.
the shit out of goats. Like, they just don't want to because it's easier to fucking brawl and just hope for the best than it is to actually try.
Yeah.
It's honestly like what goats comes down to is like ult management.
Yep.
It comes down to ult management, who can stay on top of each other and group up them best,
Yeah.
and focus the discords on the right targets and stuff like that. I personally hate fucking running goats. I don't know why Badger is so keen on running goats.
It's easy to run it. To run ghost against ghost.
Yeah,
It's a lot easier to
Goats-
win.
that's what you do to win.
It's a lot
It's
easier
a
to
lot
win.
easier.
Easier to win than fucking.
It's easier to win if that
Yeah,
implies.
if Honda was
Yeah.
trying to girl me. If
Interesting.
Discord's on the far.
Fair Mercy.
I'm playing dive as well. Okay.
Zen is up top.
Healing.
Top
on
left.
wherever load real quick.
Discord's on the far.
He's on me. I can.
What do you wanna shoot first? What's the objective?
Oh, I need to get the mercy down.
Mercy left side. The, monkey by himself on me.
Okay.
Discord's on the monkey. Monkey low.
Mummers.
Everything that we're getting in this, I feel like a little bit of a broken record. So we're running dive, and dive is about what? Dive, maybe more so than any other comp that exists within Overwatch, is about communication, right? Dive doesn't work unless the team has a singular focus. Like, the idea of a shot caller in Overwatch is like the most prevalent when you're in a dive comp, because you have something like a Zen who's like, this is discorded, and that discord, that call is a call to action for everybody on that team. We were saying earlier when I heard Beta say their whole team just turned on me, right? Yeah, because their call to action was there's a Reaper behind, and everybody turned and fired. That premise, just taken to its extreme in Overwatch, becomes what a dive comp is. The Discord is here, everybody jumps on the thing. We are too tunnel visioned when it comes to the way that we're handling our engagements, that it makes running something like a dive composition very difficult for us. I mean, you even look at it right here, right? We're only a few seconds in. We have all of our dudes hanging out over there. We got like dude over here, and then of course we have you, right? You're overextended at this point, right? I haven't even watched forward to see what happens, but it's entirely possible they can eat you alive if they all turn on you right now. We can't have that, right? If we're going to be running a dive composition, we need to be a well-oiled machine. We need to be running dive the way God intended, and that is get our call out, everybody jumps on the thing, and then everybody moves on to the next thing.
First one.
Diva, get
on the
out.
Diva.
Diva.
Discord's on the Zen on top.
Doodle. Or never mind, not anymore.
Trash back up.
I'm on Mercy.
Oh, Mercy, yo.
Discord's on the far. Far on me.
Far is on.
Get fire one. I have 23 health on point. Please help.
It doesn't matter.
Thank you.
We
Oh, they're
won.
dead.
Nice,
Very
very
much.
nice.
I was like super hiding.
Try not to.
Okay, so I get to eat crow a little bit. Obviously, you're watching this as I'm watching it for the very first time. But that fight could have gone so much worse. That fight could have gone horribly. So I still stand by my comments there. You know, you were overextended, Apollo. You know, the team fight, we won, and that's great. But the lessons that we take away from that should not be that we won the fight by doing what we did. Because by all accounts, if they were even a little bit better organized, they probably could have come back, killed you, and then started taking down our team one by one, because we would have been down a tank.
To heal me all the way, because Crest can just heal Mahogany in.
I died though, unfortunately. So,
Hey, Chris. Shoot me.
I know, hold
You're
on.
good.
Is that the same count?
Yeah, I see monkey glitching to the wall.
Diva's right next to you, Apollo.
Yeah.
I'm
on her.
kinda behind y'all.
Honda's right next to me. Do you guys push in?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
got
got
randomly
pushed off.
hit by Honda. That's okay.
Back up, back up, back up.
Discord's on the Diva.
Now go in.
There's one
Far
on
to
the
the left.
side.
Diva almost debacked. Diva almost debacked.
Glad we're hitting
She's
reload.
D-Mac.
No, she's not
No, she's
debacked.
not.
No, she's not.
Okay.
I know, I was reloading. I got it.
I'm not gonna try and poo-poo on you too much, Apollo, because I know that this is a stream that I'm looking at. But
Yeah, I see monkey glitching.
we go
to the
into
wall.
this engagement here.
Diva's right next to you, Apollo.
Yeah, I'm on her.
behind y'all.
Right.
Honda's right next to me.
That was a good call out. Right. Got somebody behind you.
You guys
Push
push
in.
in?
And you ult. And I'm not saying that the ult was a bad plan, but they needed to be able to back your play there. You know, I'm going to push them around. I'm going to try and push them off the side. It felt disorganized and chaotic, right?
Yeah.
We go into the fight. It gets messy.
Oh, got pushed off.
Everybody's
Behind us.
everywhere at this
Okay,
point.
Back up.
You try to go back to
Click on the
where
diva.
everybody else
Go in.
is, but what does it
Alright,
cost you?
go on.
You almost teamed. You almost teamed.
She's D-Mac.
She's not
No, she's
teamed.
not.
She's not.
I know, I was reloading. I got it.
Right. You should have taken that, and I know it's hard to when you're in the middle of that engagement, but everybody was back here. Where he even said pull back, and you can see it.
Honda's right next to me. You guys push in?
It's you ult, push them around, make room,
Okay.
Oh,
I
got
need
pushed
to hit behind
you
them.
jump in, right there. At this exact moment in time, you can see where your team is. You needed to be over by them, like flat out. Whether or not that would have changed the outcome of anything, you may have still died in the engagement. But it's entirely possible that fight would have gone much differently if you were pulling back to your team while you had a hit point advantage.
That's okay.
Back up.
Let's go down the diva.
Now go in.
There's one
Alright,
on
to the left.
You almost teamed. You almost teamed.
She's D-Mac.
She's not
No, she's
teamed.
not.
She's not.
I know, I was reloading. I got it. Oh, I didn't know y'all were running point.
Yeah, I got bumped in.
I'm just gonna farm.
Discord's on the
Yeah.
up.
Farm.
I fucking farm
What did I hear?
Alright, we need to reset.
If you can EMP far out of the sky, and then I drone
Yeah.
on point, and we fight them on point, and focus the farmer too, we win. Because they use trans
Yeah.
that fight, like,
Oh, they did?
Uh,
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, they did.
Alright, cool. Yeah, I don't have to worry about
That our
you
trans.
being sent on.
No, that wasn't ours.
No, that was theirs. Yep.
Pharma's, yeah, left window.
How'd he get you, man?
So
He's just left window.
yeah, he's just spamming.
Yeah, he's just spamming.
Yeah, him and Diva.
The diva was our diva's flashing DM, so I thought I was safe.
Sorry,
It's all good.
I ran out of it.
Alright, I have anything. They have Sonic right side. I'm detected.
I'm still waiting on them.
Alright, you guys together?
I need
Oh,
heals.
reloading. I know.
The Hanzo keeps peeking while we just sit here.
You ready?
Walk through,
I
guys,
need
walk
you-
through. Come on. Ah, don't run away, actually.
We're dead.
Just a follow.
Alright, you guys together?
I need
Oh,
heals.
reloading. I know.
The Hanzo keeps peeking.
Right here. This engagement was messy, flat out. You can even hear it in the comms with everybody's talking to each other. And I know that I already said this. Dive is about communication and being able to pick your targets and work on them together. There was no clear communication going into this about what the move was. It was just, I know that I heard you discuss it beforehand, right? There was the go in, let's use these ults, we can take this here. But that having that plan going into the engagement and then what's going to happen when you actually enter the engagement is two different things. So what do we need to be doing to get where our plan 10 seconds ago works, right? We're not just going through and pushing in and hoping for the best at that point.
While we just sit here.
You ready?
Walk through,
I
guys,
need
walk
you-
through. Come on. Ah, don't run away, actually.
We're dead.
Just a follow.
Yeah, go.
Discord's on the fire.
Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, never mind. Get out. Go.
Discord's on the
I
monkey.
think
monkey
you guys should
monkey.
go through man. You guys should go through man. It's gonna be harder for you to gauge on that side.
I'm just getting out.
Get out.
I'm going. I'm jumping off.
I have a nano.
You just got so
Whoever
solved.
Alright, good job pulling back.
Probably gonna win Nano Apollo.
Yeah, Nano Monkey.
About to be taken out of mag.
I'll be there in just a second.
We go to main, you said?
Yeah, go through main. Go through main for sure.
Who's the first target? Winston?
I'm gonna EMP, then you go on Mercy, Trey.
Mercy.
Mercy,
Okay.
Zen.
Yeah, Hanzo got a lucky ass flick. Holy shit.
I don't know where their Zen is. Do you guys see Zen?
No.
We're down right now. One. Don't get picked, guys.
I don't know where he is. I'm just looking.
Yeah, back up a little bit. Back up.
He might have Transcend. He's hiding somewhere.
Yeah. What
I
is
don't
back?
see him at all.
Alright. We're going
Checking
top of it. Let's go
Let
mid.
me find Zen first before you guys go in.
Okay.
Farrah has a fend.
Far in the window.
Oh, I'm gonna jump Farrah to make her back down a little. She's like,
Okay.
Oh,
I
hold on.
don't see Zen at all.
you jumped back, you jumped away.
Discord's on the diva.
Far is still in that
Discord's on far top right. She's dinked.
Okay, I found Zen.
Wait.
You ready?
Someone left.
No, it's the coach.
Spectator.
You ready?
Yeah.
Diva's low.
I know Mercy is.
Go now. Dead instantly.
Discord's on the Mercy. Mercy low. Mercy 50.
Yeah.
I can kill Mercy. Mercy, I think.
I'm dead.
She's resin.
Rezzing,
Just France.
Oh,
Just France. She's gonna
Discord's on
rest.
the diva.
Okay, we baited Valk and Transa. Who's good?
Yeah.
Just gonna go in the
This
farm.
killed me. This killed me. Tom's internet died, I think.
Why are we pushing up without
Lily
Diva?
point is their spawn.
Alright, Crest. Okay, follow me now.
And Zen.
It was me.
Kristen. Sorry, good.
Yeah, I can't
It's
see.
all good.
There you go, I can see.
Where you going
Let's
now?
go mid.
I'm on Hanzo. He jumped point.
There's a bubble, I can't heal her.
Discord's on the monkey.
Hold on. Far is still in the air.
There as well.
I'm dead. Oh my god, I'm alive. Press behind you. I need heals. Press.
I got both heals on me.
I'm here. I didn't know you
I
were
got the
behind me.
diva.
Oh my god, I can't.
I missed him.
Oh.
Sleeping.
Oh shit, sorry.
Okay, I'm getting popped.
Zen's right here. He's the only one on the point.
Diva's low. I have MP again.
Mercy's anti. Oh,
Get
Is
out.
this still winnable? Oh no, it's not.
No. Get out.
sorry about earlier. I didn't know you were behind me, Beta.
X does a voice call too, so you can hear where I'm from.
I know, I couldn't hear it. Oh, my ears are plugged right now. It could be really loud. Yeah. So, like,
Alright, we need to group up a little bit, coordinate. Where are we going? What are we doing? We're all spread out.
Let's go. You got one. Let's go.
middle?
They're rezzing.
Going in now.
They're rezzing.
Yeah.
Y'all
We gotta
did
get quicker.
the fact I picked
I'm on Zen. I'm fine blocking Zen.
You got solo ulted?
Hold on, I'm middle.
Nice.
I'm on Mercy.
Discord's on monkey.
There's a Zen in the middle.
I'm on Monkey right now.
Discord's on the monkey.
I'm on him.
Monkey's low. You can see him.
Okay, I'm dead.
I'm on him still.
Alright.
Oh my god.
Nano again.
Okay, when we get a pick, we gotta move and make sure the Mercy can't
Y'all
res
need
it.
to move faster when I get a pick. I called
Yeah.
it too. It was top right window.
It's up
Or
to the
window
tanks
top.
to engage that.
That can jump up there.
I was all the way in the
Sat
right.
there and waited for them to res. Like, I know maybe one or two of us was still getting back, but we could have easily still abused it.
Which way do you want to go, Paula? Call it out.
Let's go right.
after on the
Go
hard.
quick there.
Step right.
Follow Apollo, wherever he goes.
I'm wondering if at this point we just need to go ahead and assign somebody, and maybe it's Apollo, to be designated choice for the route that we go, because it seems to be a common thing as we're going through these VODs and reviewing them that, you know, again, we exit out of the where we're changing our heroes and we don't know where to go. Where do we go? What are we doing? Who's doing what? Right? We're all asking that question as we go through these engagements, and we need to just have a definitive, this is where we're going. We go left, we go right, whatever.
Alright, going.
We're going.
I can't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna res it. There you go.
They're resing it right now.
Come on.
I'm gonna EMP after this.
Alright, coming back. There's a Hanzo on the side.
Hanzo's low.
I'm on Farrah.
I can't, I don't
Trans
have
on point. Trans on point.
I'm Zen right now. I'm on hands escorted.
Zen.
Diva.
Diva.
Reloading.
Baby Diva. Monkey,
Discord's on
monkey.
the monkey. Discord's on the widow.
She's Zach.
Top.
I got pushed down. Hold on, back up.
Yeah, both healers are down.
This is one. This is one.
Hands are coming in. Hands are coming in. Hands escorted. On the Zen. Yeah.
Diva.
Even
Disco's on Diva.
She's sleeping.
Disco.
Go
Okay,
with
Disco's
Chill. Hammond.
on ball.
Baby Diva. There you go. So what happens
You
when
gotta take
you're
advantage of that first
decisive?
pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been too slow to react for most of the first picks, but that one we did good.
Switching sides.
Ugh.
Prepare your defenses. Select
The real question is why'd Hum leave our game?
I
I
don't know.
know.
My internet shut out for a second.
Really? That feels bad. Here, do you want me to invite you?
If you can, yeah.
You made us cry. We all started crying simultaneously when you did that.
I think Crest is just having a runny nose though.
No.
What do we want on defense here?
We're into the dive again. Or we do something else?
Do you want me
Here
to
we go.
mercy?
I mean, it kind of need a shield for the. Oh,
I think
We're
we
all
should just
deciding on
do
hero selection, guys. I can't beat this
Sorry.
into our heads enough.
okay.
Spreadsheet,
because
something.
my
We need to be
Which one do
having
you wanna
this
follow?
discussion. Who we
Sorry, yeah.
have, who we're comfortable with. Like, it just.
I'm putting all my juice on you.
If they try to
Uh,
teleport behind us, we need to be very fast to like just walk back to point.
Do we want a Zen or an Ana?
Then. We on a Zen.
Oh, I went mercy for the Ash, but I can
Okay.
I can go.
That's fine. That's fine.
The only reason I'm
We're already here.
is
10 seconds.
Bob into their goats, and we can just fuck them up on front line and have Bob in back line.
I'm just gonna put. I'm putting all my blue man juice on you. So.
2, 1.
That Ryan.
Defend objective A.
Moira goats.
That was a good call out.
Disco's on the Diva.
I'm in the hot.
Disco's on the Ren.
Brigida behind us.
2 seconds for my bubble.
No, I need
Put any
bubble.
count? Up to that?
Yeah, would you?
I can't do anything.
Diva's low. Diva's low. Run tagged.
Disco's on the Lucio on point. Oh, if I'm dead, I'm just gonna jump.
Alright.
Just die. Just die. Just die.
Da, da,
Okay,
da.
so why?
I'll go on.
Right,
We're not
let's
gonna
go
be
back to that.
fast
No
enough.
VMP.
I'm just gonna put. I'm putting all my blue man.
So let's go back to the
juice on
engagement.
you, so.
We start the fight. You fire,
Ryan.
obviously trying to build charge. We pull back. You called out the Rhine. Good.
Moira goats.
We have the call from Moira Goats. Excellent. Now we know what they're going to be running, right? We stop, and right here. All right, so we got our shields up, right? We're doing good. Why do they overpower
On
us?
the Diva.
Right.
I'm in the hot.
You go in, you drop your
Disco's on the
shield,
Ren.
and you start swinging.
Brigida behind us.
So where was all of our healing on that, right? Like, let's go back and maybe I missed it. Maybe I didn't see where the healing was in the engagement.
Okay.
I can go. I can go.
That's fine. That's fine.
The only reason I'm
We're already here.
is
10 seconds.
Bob into their goats, and we can just fuck them up on front line and have Bob in back line.
I'm just gonna put. I'm putting all my blue man juice on you. So.
2, 1.
So I'm gonna watch
That
HP
Ryan.
during this engagement. So we go in.
Moira goats.
We have callouts.
Disco's on the Diva.
Okay, you've got your Zen Orb on.
Disco's on the Ren.
Brigida behind us.
So at this point, this early in the engagement, I feel like because our tank is in the front line, yes, we do want to have our Ashe, blue juiced and powered up and trying to get those early picks. We need to be keeping an eye on our front line, right? So normally, when we're having these discussions, we're like, hey, everybody, watch the back line because, they want to get to our supports. But in Hanamura, it's really about fighting at that front gate 9 times out of 10. So the eyes have to be on the tanks at that point. Oh, shit. So our eyes have to be on the tanks at that point, right? We need to be, if Apollo's in the front line and his shield's about to drop and he's going to start swinging, what do we need to do to be supporting him at that point? Because if he falls, that's our Rhine down. We're down a man. We haven't taken down any of theirs yet, and they're going to be pushing in. So it's just something to keep in mind. Like I said, always be looking to take care of our supports in every way, shape, or form. But, I mean, at this point, it was our Rhine fell, and everything just kind of seemed to trickle down with it.
2 seconds for my bubble.
No, I need
Could
bubble.
help you that?
Yeah, would you?
I can't do anything.
D.Va's low, D.Va's low. Run tag.
Discord's on the Lucio on point. Oh, I'm dead. I'm just gonna jump.
Alright.
Just die, just die, just die.
Die.
I'll go on now.
We're not going to be back fast
No
enough.
VMP. Give VMP Bob.
I'll get Bob after you EMP most likely.
Yeah.
We really need an Ana, Chris.
They're going main. They're going main.
I VMP.
Yes, we have EMP for this.
Ready?
Discord's on the right.
We need. Yep.
Huge.
Discord's on the brig.
Big, big.
Briggs anti.
Discord's on the brig.
Did Bob fall down there?
Yeah.
Discord's on D.Va. I got the D.Va.
Fine, they're here.
D.Va drop.
They're all stuck. They, how do we not get them? There we go.
More.
Call it target.
Good call outs.
Sorry,
Good
sorry.
focus.
Upper end.
Reloading.
Discord's on the Zarya.
Keep going.
I would question that chatter,
Call is
but
done. Alright.
got the job done.
They didn't get a tick. Nice. We stopped their hard push too.
I'm gonna go farm.
Rebecca,
I just have another MP.
Yeah, top left.
check
Top
on the
left.
Reinhardt.
What?
Check on the Reinhardt because I think Apollo went forward and
Hey Zen, can you put orb on me? In case they.
What's up?
Sorry.
Sorry? What'd you say?
Put orb on me. They're gonna dive me like their divas. Just gonna keep.
Yeah, it's on you. Discord's on their end.
We'll probably be way too soon. I could die.
He's one. Good chance.
See, that worked. Pick on the Rhine. That was a called thing.
I got
We went
but I have
in,
VMP.
we executed on it, and look how well it turned out.
D.Va.
Oh shit, hard bomb up.
you shatter.
Nice.
I'm stunned.
Big.
Briggs anti.
Discord's on the brig.
Standpoint. There's somebody at least.
Discord's on the Moira.
No, we need to stagger those.
Dude, easy.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, good point.
As long as you keep orb on me so they can't just keep diving me.
Yeah, I got
Wait,
you,
wait.
boss.
This Ryan is
Save the bubbles when they're like right on me.
Okay.
Like when they're like right on me.
They're going top right. I have VMP when they go in.
I'm coming in now.
Yeah. Ready? EMP in?
Discord's on their end.
Go in.
Discord's on the brig behind.
I'm dead. Keep going.
Oh,
Discord's on their end.
that was
Alright, D.Va.
beautiful.
Discord's on the Zarya.
There you go.
Oh, that's the kind of team play I love to see. This is what gets me so excited when I watch you guys play. Like, you are all individually really strong players. You know, you just said it
EMP
yourselves.
is so fat.
Yep.
Just a little bit more communication.
Let us know. It doesn't look like they're switching.
No.
Hi,
still same
Beta.
thing.
They're all turning to look at me. I'm just farming.
Oh, they're
Neither
going
here
left?
nor Chris.
Some of them are coming this side.
Right by myself.
Discord's on their
Alright,
end.
they're going again.
Ryan's low.
Ryan's low.
I'm gonna bump. I'm gonna Zarya.
Discord's on Zarya.
I can't see you.
Discord's on Zarya. Brig's still here. Discord's on the brig.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you guys, I
She's
can't.
behind me.
Stagger the diva.
See, even there, we lost our Reinhardt, but because we'd had such good communication leading up to the engagement, right? We were saying things like, focus their Reinhardt, bully their Reinhardt. And then when we got into the actual engagement itself, it was, brig. But it wasn't just repeating a name for the sake of repeating a name. We saw something executed on during that. And that's when we started to see the enemy team start falling one by one by one. We began acting like as a group and not as individual players.
Brig is 10 HP. Nice. Thanks for killing me.
I couldn't see what Paula, you went behind the corner.
Jeez, because of
Maybe
their
big.
angle, my angle is so bad. I'm hardly getting charged, dude. I'm gonna have to stand over here. When I get Bob,
We're going top again.
They're going
I have EMP. We're going top.
again.
Yep.
Beta. Discord's on the end.
Friend's anti. There's a brig behind y'all.
Discord's on the brick behind.
Brig's still behind. I can't see you guys when you go in there. You know where you're going. I can't see the Apollo. They're anti. Some of them are anti.
Sorry. There's one.
Reloading.
Alright, they're gonna have grab next fight and I use trans.
There's an excellent call for grab.
Alright. We can't contest top then.
There we go.
There we go.
Now we're sounding like
Bottom
a team.
point? Or-
If they come top, just play like the back corner of point, like over there. Yeah, over
Yeah,
there.
so yeah.
If they have grab.
Beep, boop.
I'm watching.
Over here.
Yeah, the back right.
Yeah, we're
corner.
close. Yep. They're going main now. They're going main.
Discord's on their end.
Yeah, I'm so fucked.
Boris X.
I got
Ran's
it.
so low, Ran's low, rack that.
Oh shit. Okay. So that sucks.
I'm just gonna get back to spawn.
Yeah,
Oh damn.
touch. He's gonna touch.
I'm gonna switch to Lucio for stall.
They can solo grab me. They solo grab me.
I'm coming back.
Y'all touch? Can y'all touch?
Yeah.
I'm gonna die though.
I can't see him.
That was too early.
Run.
Oh.
EMP'd. That's all I can do. Loose.
I'm stunned.
Oh my god,
Oh
the
my God.
fucking
Touch.
fucking thing can't go around the.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It hits
So that was a good
everyone.
defense. But let's go back just a few seconds
There.
here.
Yeah, over
Yeah,
there.
so yeah.
If they have grab.
So what were we doing so well in the previous fights? Right, we had that call out that we need to bully that Rhine and really shut him down early.
I'm watching.
Over here.
Yeah, the back
Yeah,
right.
we're
corner.
close. Yep. They're going main now. They're going main. They're going main.
Come in.
Discord's on their end.
Main.
Yeah, I'm
Discord's on Rhine, right? So far, plan of action's going well.
so fucked.
Go in.
Boris X.
Okay, mischarge, it's a little bit rough. But, you know, it doesn't always come down to one charge. If the Discord is on the Rhine, right, and that's our call out, and that's the thing that we're supposed to be bullying, then everybody's focus fire should have been on the Rhine. Yes, I get everybody's being fired on and everybody's reacting to their own situations, but if that Discord's on the Rhine, we could have dropped him fairly quickly if everybody had just fired on him and then gone back to our own targets, right? And so because of that, right, action, reaction,
Ran's so low, rack that.
Oh shit.
that happens.
So that sucks.
I'm just gonna get back to spawn.
Yeah,
Oh damn.
touch. He's gonna touch.
I'm gonna switch to Lucio for stall.
Hi.
I don't know. It's because they were like coming mains, like we were up top. They
Yeah,
were
there's two up top. Like, there's a lot up top and a lot.
What are we running on this one?
Play dive.
Yeah, probably dive. Doomfist is not good enough to run with Sombra anymore, is he?
After the nerf.
I mean,
Contenders.
if we have Discord, I don't think it matters, right?
I think it's mainly his mobility that just hurts him.
I don't think we're good at.
Zarya, but not too much.
Diva on high ground top right.
She
Just
discorded.
Just go right. This way.
Right,
this
right,
way.
right. Up.
Let's go this way.
I'm following
Just
beta.
go around.
Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa, whoa,
around
whoa, 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 whoa. See,
They're all
there,
low.
there it is again.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Not play our best.
We are sitting here discussing
Lucio, but then like
No, we don't have a decent.
random things,
play Zarya Crest.
you know, trying to figure out our strategy, whatever's going on. It doesn't matter.
Tank players.
We jump in,
Just
Those
only
are
thing.
roles we need to practice.
we move forward. Right, we're in a dive comp.
Diva on high ground top right.
Okay,
She
call out.
discorded.
Just go right. This way.
Right, right, right. Up.
Let's go this way.
I'm following
Just
beta.
go around and
That
behind.
call out should not have
They're all low,
happened
they're
as
all
late
top.
as it did,
Let's go
right?
around, down, and behind.
That call out of
Second for me.
just go right, or you know where our focus is, that's losing us fights because we're spread out. Noodles is in one place, we're, you know, dicking around trying to figure out where we're going because we don't have a clear idea in our head of how the engagement should happen. If we're running dive, we should say, all right, we're running dive, we should go to the right, and jump up or something along those lines, instead of every time we have these engagements hearing, you know, oh, which way are we going? Like that question should not even be asked. We should be having a shot caller in terms of which, path we're taking to get to the objective.
I healed
Diva,
you.
diva, 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 diva.
Oh my god, we didn't focus as much as we should have there.
Can you get out, Zen? Can you get out?
Yeah, I'm out. I'm
Do we
dead.
wanna try that again? We have
I-
trance to fight, and we have like EMP and almost Doom ult.
Yeah. Discord the Rhine first, or attack the Rhine
Hey,
first.
what are we doing?
Get the Discord off on
On the point, and then if they come at us, we.
Where you
we
guys
still have
going in without Zen?
What? Oh.
Wait for our man.
Right now.
If they're rallying.
That's a good call.
Until armor ends before we start a fight. How long does it last? Like 5 seconds? 10?
No,
You're gonna
but
bring it to us.
it keeps saying with them.
Alright, I just ended.
Yeah, it stays with
They have
them.
no rally. It's just the armor from the rally now.
Yep.
They lost all the health.
I'm gonna go on point and just big shot down here.
Discord's on Diva.
Run.
EP.
Get the Rhine,
EP.
Discord on
first.
Ryan. Discord on Ryan.
I'm on Zen.
Come on, where's our focus fire there, guys?
Zen.
Oh my
Zen.
god, on me.
If Discord is on the Diva, that's our call to action, right? We had two fights going on. I was like, oh, go for the Rhine. Oh, Discord's on Diva. We can't have that. Like our shot in a dive scenario, our shot caller says, Discord's on the Diva, everybody turn and face the Diva, right? That's where the Discord is. That's going to be the easiest person to burn. Ergo, we should be focusing that and not, oh crap, there's a Rhine here, right? I get it. We're in the middle of the fight. It's hard to make these decisions on the flies, but that's what's going to make or break the team at that point, is us getting our actual focus fire down and listening to our shot callers.
Well, if you-
That's good. That's what we needed.
well, not really, because
Get out.
yeah,
Where you down to? Good.
because the Zen ulted, so it didn't do anything.
I know, but that's good. We got the Zen all that.
They're super up.
Big.
They're super up. Can we get
I'm
that?
trying to get out. Any heals?
It's
Fuck.
4v6.
No, what? We're both
Fuck,
dead.
we couldn't get the break. That sucks, man.
Yeah.
Come back.
I have ult again.
Okay.
I'm just-
That sucks.
We've got to get better with our regroups. Just hands down.
I think the EMP missed the people that dropped a point, and
It might have.
It got most of them.
It got 4 though, yeah, still.
I'm at 30.
oh no, we do need focus targets though. Like there's Zen.
So you're not gonna. Oh, we're gonna take the
There's
team.
Zen and Ryan are like prime targets in my opinion. They probably have grab by the way.
Very good
I can
call-outs.
start shooting the Zen if you guys
Get
jump.
back. I'm gonna bomb over top.
There's Zen is up Discorded.
He was anti.
Break
on the Diva.
one, breaks one.
Discord's on the monkey. Or not monkey, Ryan.
Run.
It runs anti. Oh.
Run.
That Ryan's anti, we should be
Ryan.
focusing him, right? That's what that call out was for.
I'm just gonna go far right here because we have such long range.
I know that we're all good enough players that we should be able to recognize that if a Ryan is antied or discorded, we should be bullying him. We should be in his face the entire time, pushing through his shield and hurting him as much as we can.
A little bit back. Wait, why do we have Wrecking Ball?
Trying something out new. Monkey was not working.
Alright. I was just wondering.
That's a valid question
Okay,
there, right?
ready?
If we're doing team swaps in the middle of a fight, we need to be telling our
Ready?
team that and explaining why we're
Ryan
making
first.
that,
I'm on
that
Lucio.
swap.
I'm on Lucio.
We can.
Oh, you get on the point.
They're all impeded. They're all impeded.
Discord's on the Ryan.
Pop.
Obviously. Nice.
Dead.
The bomb. Watch the
100%.
bomb. Don't out of the bomb. Diva's behind you.
Hold on, I got pooped off the point.
Discord's on the Zen. Discord on the Diva behind point.
She's sleeping. She's out of med.
Discord
Zarya's
maybe.
coming. Zarya's coming. She's low.
Discord's on Lucio.
Oh, I'm about to die. I'm dead.
I have ult.
Nice, there we go.
Nice.
Some heals. For.
I'm dead.
Oh, you got the bad spawn.
No, I have a new spawn. I just came back
Here,
now.
get some ult on me.
Alright, I have ult here. Do we,
We're on tag. I'm farming him.
I'm on him.
if you can hack Diva before I ult, that'd be easy peasy.
I have to get out of mech. She can still DM well hacked.
Really?
Yep, because it's a. It's her right click.
They know you're there.
Discord's on the Ryan.
I got stunned and destroyed.
Zarya's up top.
There's in just ate a dick, dude.
You guys can push in. They're down zone. You're even.
This squad's on their end.
Fuck. I killed Brig. They're down Brig also. They have
They're down
one
Brig.
healer.
Nice,
They have
nice.
one healer. Kill
Yeah,
Lucio.
This squad's on
Lucio.
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 Discord Zara. Zara's a higher priority target, but she's already
Yeah,
dead.
she was just one, so I didn't think it. This squad's on the diva. Right side.
She's low. She's right here.
Oh, I didn't do that.
This squad's on the
Maybe
Lucio.
two.
This
Their Ryan's half.
God, the Brig got me.
squad's on the.
Break anti.
To the anti. We backed up, me and Zen. Oh, Noodles.
This squad's on their end.
I can get out. I have EMP.
I have nano.
You can throw your bomb and I can EMP it.
This squad's on
Alright,
the
almost-
Zarya.
I'm almost there.
This squad's the diva.
I'm shooting you.
Couple seconds.
I'm holding
I'm-
it.
Throw it to me. Throw it to
This
me.
squad's on the Zarya.
Throw it to me.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah,
Zarya's
throw it
50.
to
Probably have
Do
grab.
it.
I have a trans.
They're anti.
Big.
Hey, can I get
It's
This
huge.
squad's on the break.
Poke it. Yeah, that brings on me.
Big.
Diva.
Splitting.
Brigida.
Big,
Brigida.
I got bad spawn.
Okay, we're gonna get this.
Coming
Take me.
slowly.
Can't see all that well.
Zen's one.
Zarya's ult?
Yeah, she's definitely ult.
Yeah, I cut up the Ryan.
If you want healing, like.
Zen-
back
Yeah,
there.
go around. Nice.
Oh, the Ryan's almost dead.
This squad's on their end. This squad's on the Zarya. This squad's on their end.
Zara's looking for grab.
I have trans.
I'm on right now.
Callouts.
This squad's on.
They got me. Oh,
Back up.
Very low. Nice.
I
Keep
got
backing,
bomb.
keep backing.
I almost have. I have nano now.
Alright.
Let me know who wants
Yeah, I
it.
got bomb when you're
This
ready.
squad's on Zarya.
Noodles is at 90, we're good.
Diva's on the right side. I'm charging Diva right now. Oh, she backed up.
They're gonna grab from behind.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
got me. Okay, interesting. I think I was only. Oh no, two of us died to that.
Just last fight. Come back.
Okay, we got Nano, Bomb.
We have ults. Yeah, we have ults.
Should I nano Reiner or Clara?
Probably Ryan.
Ryan.
Okay, we
Because
EMP
if he
and
dies,
Dia
we
Bomb.
lose the fight.
EMP, Dia Bomb
Noodles
this fight.
for it.
Yep, just. You can throw your bomb when you're ready.
I'm ready. And
This squad's on their end.
here it is.
Oh,
Two on me.
Got around.
This squad's on the diva.
Diva.
Zarya's one. Oh, shit.
Zarya's being
Th-
killed.
This squad's still on the diva.
there's a Lucio on the payload.
Lucio.
Squad on diva.
Lucio.
Sorry, big focused.
Come to me. Lucio's anti.
Lucio's one.
Oh, sorry, so weak.
Can I get heals up top?
Yeah. Hold on. There you go.
I killed two. It's D-Max, Diva, and Zen right now.
And right coming in.
Hold on, point.
I don't have any ults. Oh shit, I should have gotten that baby diva. It's literally
Okay,
just your
that thing.
healers on point right now, but it's about to die.
Big
Get
end.
together, get together.
Ryan's one.
Alright.
I think we pushed it pretty far.
Okay, so that engagement
Should I
itself,
have a?
that yes, they didn't win the initial engagement, but all of the stuff that I've been talking about earlier, kind of in this VOD, really came into play. We were calling out what our ultimates were. We were actually properly calling out like Discord targets, focus this person. Everybody felt like everybody was backing one another's plays. You saw ults going on. You saw Ryan charge into that room, and as soon as he charged into the room with a couple people in there, went on his ultimate. Everything clicked into place, and all the communication was there as a team. These are the kind of moves that we're looking for as we're going into things like Open Division and playing against other teams. Is the not only being comfortable with the heroes that we are on, but being comfortable with the heroes that our teammates have, and thereby we can back each other's plays like that, even when things get messy, even when things are in overtime, and you've got a Reinhardt stuck in a room with 2 other people. He probably would have died in that scenario, you know. But we got the ult, we got the Ana ult off. We were able to focus targets, start, you know, tearing them down, and so we didn't get that final point. But everything about that play itself felt fantastic. It felt like everybody was really in the zone, and everybody felt comfortable with one another.
Yeah. No, I'm just asking so like I'll know.
Howdy, chef. Howdy.
Dude, Diva isn't really diving me when I was far up. Apollo, is your shield breaking on frontline, or are you just getting...
I just changed to Ryan. I just changed to Ryan, but the last game I was getting bullied hard.
You're getting bullied?
Yep.
Oh, I just realized I'm not Zarya.
That's why having a Zarya is nice.
6 seconds.
Hey, don't go back and switch though. Like,
Yeah, I won't. I just heard same, so I went the same. I wasn't looking at it.
they could run far.
It's like,
oh, it looks like they're running dive.
3 tank, 3 support dive.
that should be alcohol.
Like they're going. They're going this side.
This goes. Oh,
I'm jumping.
This goes on the monkey.
Monkey first.
Oh, I thought we were dropping. My bad. I dropped. I thought we were dropping.
It should be just me
you don't need
Diva.
to drop as Zena.
I'm not Zen.
See, there we are
Zena,
questioning.
I mean,
Oh.
because you can range heal.
We've got we've got a Zenyatta there. We're popping discords, but we're not focusing our targets. We let Ryan get bullied in the early fight, and as soon as Ryan gets bullied in the early fight, the rest of the team drops after that. And that's, I keep coming back to it over and over and over again, but it's just those little things that we're missing, right? When we're asking ourselves, oh, I thought we were going to drop, right? I heard that over the comms. That shouldn't have been a question. It should have been everybody all at once, hey, drop now. You know, right? We need that shot caller, not only for focusing targets, but for what the action of the team should be.
I mean, I'm dead.
We need to swap off Ryan, I think. We're just gonna keep getting bullied by...
They were doing better as dive before. Heal me.
Where I'm dead.
Are you getting off Ryan or you have Zarya?
This is, I think, what we need, Brig.
I can go there. Or Kuda can, either one. Whatever.
Should I use transfers or should I just switch?
I use trans for sure. I have VP.
Yeah, we want to stop, see if we can get him right up here. For this point.
Monkey up
Sorry,
top.
son.
No, he's not.
I have kept that Zarya at like 10 HP this entire time, dude.
Let me know when you're diving, all UP.
Back.
I'm in the monkey. I'm in the monkey. On the
Monkey
monkey.
can't time?
Like,
Okay.
I'm on Zen.
Oh.
Discord's on the
I'm on
Zen,
Lucio.
Discord's on the Brig.
We need help. Oh!
Big.
Discord's on the Zarya.
I know, I was trying to heal you, but you got behind
Our
me.
healers need help. Our healers need help.
Oh, I'm dead.
Winston was on me and Fauna that entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was trying to heal you, but you went behind that little gift card
Yeah,
thing.
because he knocked me over it.
Oh, sorry.
And then I couldn't do anything when I was behind it.
Yeah.
I got bad spawn. Okay, fine.
Yeah, me
No,
too.
that's good.
Let's try and get rid of the habit of trying to explain ourselves mid-combat. If we want to really sit there and talk about what went right, what went wrong, do it between fights. But trying to explain ourselves when we should be focusing targets, we need to really break ourselves of that.
Try to call out your sleeps.
No, I was going to. Who am I?
Get this Fauna.
I'm healing at home.
Killed
Who
them.
jumped?
Oh, Winston, come back.
You should have nanoed him. enough time to regroup. You're gonna have to probably nano Winston for him to touch though.
Yeah, I can touch right now.
2 seconds. 1.
We have bomb.
I'm gonna die here. I'm dead.
No C9.
Monkey's hack, monkey's hack, monkey's hack, monkey's hack. Monkey.
Monkey's dead. Monkey's
Where
dead.
is it? Monkey's dead.
Zarya's hack, Zarya's hack, Zarya's hack.
Come back.
Brig.
I'm dead here, dude. That diva. As soon as you get EMP, she knows.
Anti. Big anti.
Yep.
They got me.
Get
Huge.
Lucio. Look.
Monkey behind.
Yeah, it's
They
only
just.
break.
I'm getting pushed off payload by monkey. He's stunned. I'm stunned.
Get away from it.
Monkey weak.
Monkey.
Yeah,
Going back.
it's that brig. You need to get that brig really bad.
Brig's 50.
That's like a.
Here. Oh, I'm dead now. That's it.
Alright, good game.
I don't know, man. We're just not reacting to picks or whatever it is. I don't know.
There's a lot of this coming up that, I mean, obviously it's being said over the comms over and over again, but, you know, knowing what our counter picks are, what compositions we're comfortable with, these are all the things that I keep going back to more and more and more as I'm kind of reviewing these VODs. And it's just one of those things that we go into an engagement, we'll get a couple of really good picks, and maybe we're not able to follow through on it, or maybe we have something like our Reinhardt that's being bullied, right? We have a situation where they're really getting on Apollo and staying on him. You know, not only should we be thinking about things like counter picking against the enemy team, but what's our solution, right? Because we know Apollo's a good Reinhardt. He's being bullied by people in the front line. What do we do to counter that? Is it he needs to swap because he's being bullied? Or is it that we need to refocus ourselves, look at things like, okay, maybe we should designate a healer to him while we're in the front line at the very beginning of an engagement at that point, right? If our win condition effectively becomes don't lose Reinhardt, then we need to say that that's what our win condition is and really follow through on it. And no, I don't want a Mercy just sitting there attached to a Reinhardt the entire time that we're engaging in a fight. But what I'm saying is that we need to be a little bit more aware of the fact that they are very obviously targeting our tanks. So let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to take care of that situation and counter that situation specifically.
How about this?
Rewind just a little bit.
What do we want for the other support?
Lucio. Let's try this.
They're right above us. Yep.
How about this?
I'm hiding behind the cart.
I think they're rotated.
Yeah.
They have triple tank as well.
You got a bubble, Apollo? Oh, Diva stepped in front of you. Back up. Make sure you guys stay behind Ryan.
Oh, don't go up there.
No.
Come on, where's our callouts?
I was trying to heal you.
That's right. Let's just jump off.
We fell back hella far.
Yeah.
We need to.
Who'd they pick?
Me, and
Ryan,
then
Apollo.
Diva mech.
Ryan and Diva.
Alright.
Diva the above us again. Watch out.
I was just wondering because like we fell out of there so fast.
I got a bubble, Apollo.
Well, I got Zarya, only Zarya.
Are you serious? That hit me on top of the payload?
Yeah, good.
Reinhardt got me.
Alright, they use strengths.
No, we have grab, nano.
Uh,
Shatter can hit you when you're on top of payload.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does that.
Hit you
It
every
does
time.
Here you go.
That's fucking bullshit, dude.
What up, Apollo? What up? What up? We're not with you yet.
Because I was gonna counter ults and then like stall their push really easy, and that shit happened.
They
I
use
heard
grab,
the
right?
ult.
Yeah, they use
Run,
grab.
run, run.
No, they have grab. Sorry. They use strands.
Run, run, run.
Using it.
That was a good play.
Oh, I got
It's
stunned.
We need to not. Apollo, I'm not
Well,
trying to
Victor,
call
we-
you out here, man.
Oh, okay.
But like
Bye-bye.
in both engagements that you went into with Shatter, you got Shatter and almost immediately tried to use Shatter. I don't know if it was a being tilted kind of situation where you're just like, the games have been frustrating leading up to this point. But every time that you're getting Shatter, you're immediately trying to use it, not thinking about the fact that, they have an enemy Reinhardt, he's probably going to try and counter it. It almost felt like very reactionary, and I know for a fact that you are much better and much more thoughtful when it comes to using your ultimates that I'm seeing here in Dorado. So maybe we need to talk about that and figure out how to change our plays, so that you're not being as aggressive with it. But yeah, it's really kind of cost us a couple of fights here because you've just gone and turned and used the ultimate, but you haven't put any thought or really even looked at the screen. You've literally turned around and just activated it, hoping that you were going to hit something. And it almost feels in some ways it's cost us the fight.
Maybe. I don't know.
They use both support ults.
Zero, zero.
Save it.
I'm trying to back out a little bit.
Yeah, just back up. That's why, back up.
I'm stuck. 5 seconds for boost.
I'll be able to combo with you, Noodles, most likely.
Alright.
Big football. Are we here?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna nano you. 3, 2, 1, now.
Oh, I hit my shatter. I don't know what happened.
Use grab.
Anti.
Oh, have it.
Lucio and break anti. We need to get on the payload.
2 seconds. 1 second.
Pretty good. I don't have energy.
I feel like at
Yeah.
this point in in the scrim, I know that everybody's a bit disheartened. You guys had lost a few rounds.
Yeah,
He just needs to
finishes.
but-
follow the Rhine, man.
It's one of those kind of psychological game things where you get that far in, you
Keep
maybe
it
have
still
a
inside for
few
a lot of the
losses, but it ends up kind of taking over your mindset. You can almost hear it in your voices that you guys are almost kind of exasperated by still having to go into the scrim. The engagements aren't going as cleanly as something like the Hanamura engagements that we saw earlier, right? In Hanamura, we had our callouts, our discords, we were focusing targets. We said, hey, we need to bully the Rhine. And as soon as we did that, we saw an instant turnaround where we were able to gain the advantage over the enemy team. But in this situation, like I said, everybody sounds really tired, and it's just like, oh crap, just do whatever, just I'm just gonna nano you, go and kind of hope for the best. Even that last shatter that I saw, yeah, you hit a couple people with it, but was that the best solution at that point? Is the question, right? I know the time was running slow, or time was running out, and everybody was like, hey, we need to get on the point, we need to move and do the thing now. But alt management is such a crucial part of Overwatch, right? Alt management is what makes or breaks entire games. And going in there, even when you're exhausted, even when you've lost a couple of games, and just saying, hey, let's just all throw our ults at the problem and see what happens. It's all psychological, right? And yeah, as we're hearing on Twitch, obviously, mental fatigue is hard. You get this far in, you get 3 or 4 games in, and it becomes stressful. But there's another aspect to it that you really have to think about, and it's this way for fighting games as well. There's a big part of Overwatch and fighting games where when you're playing against a human opponent, it becomes a little bit of psychological warfare. Like, if the enemy team thinks that we've got 5 ults in the chamber and ready to go, it's entirely possible you may see them back away from that payload and not play as aggressively, because they know the moment they try and go for a play, as soon as their Reinhardt starts swinging instead of keeping his shield up, then our ultimate's going to go off, they're all going to drop, we gain the advantage. And we need to be playing that game, right? We need to be playing that game of footsies with them and not just kind of accepting our fate when everything's down.
I'm gonna start bottom. We have no long range.
Yeah. I was gonna peek what they have and that's it. I think everyone else should be behind him too. Yeah.
Another 5 strike can go back.
Yeah, play the chick. Diva.
On top.
Ryan.
Who's going right top?
Theo. Yeah, the same goats.
I was putting all my healing on you.
Whoa.
Sorry, sleeping. Trying to back out a little bit.
Damn.
So, Hum, you're absolutely right. What you're saying
Yeah,
about
we lost one.
how everybody doesn't seem as confident and in vocal as they used to be. I'm going to have the VOD all wrapped up here soon. And I've been trying to go through. Apollo was actually in the chat for the first part of it. We kind of talked about some of this. A lot of the repeat things that we're seeing in terms of pre-game is almost as important as being in the game itself, right? So we're seeing so much of, we get into a game, and the first question that we always hear is, all right, what's everybody playing? And that should never, at this point, be a question, right? Right? We're playing open division. We're going in and playing against other teams. We still find ourselves asking, like, what heroes is everybody picking, right? The example I used earlier was, you were in Nepal, right? You were in Nepal, and you should have said, okay, we're in Nepal. Let's go ahead and run goats, or let's run dive, or we don't have that. And maybe that responsibility is on me a little bit. Like I said, maybe we need to, over this week, get that spreadsheet going of, like, who's strongest with which heroes, so we're not asking ourselves, what we're doing per map. What are the little things that we can change? The other thing that I was kind of going over earlier in the stream was the secondary question, which was always, which way are we going, right? The door opens, we rush out, and somebody says, which way are we going? And just as much as we need a shot caller for things like, so-and-so is discorded or so-and-so is at 1, I almost feel like one of our weaknesses, we need to have that shot caller that before that door opens says, all right, I'm going top right, I'm going mid. And typically, I think that would be somebody like Apollo. That would be our main tank that says, this is the way that I want to handle this engagement. We need to have that comfort in our map selection in the same way that we have our comfort in our hero pool choice.
Should be able to have a good contester. Big hammer. Grab. Big.
Huge.
She's discorded. I'm dead.
See, and that right there is something that I didn't see as much earlier, right? We said Brig, we reacted to Brig. There's a lot of mess that we have in our in our comms. I know that I say this every week when I watch these scrims, and I'm like, clean comms, guys, clean comms. And we go in and we say things that we're almost like mimics, right? We've watched so many hours of Overwatch League, we've watched so many hours of other VODs, and we're almost repeating the same things that we hear other players do, but we're not reacting on that thing, right? In this instance, right, let's go back a couple seconds here. We go in, we start to make our play. All right.
Should be able to have a good contester.
All right, cool. So we get our power up.
Hammer.
He keeps his shield up. Fantastic. We make our move.
Right
there.
Brig.
And then there it is. There's the call for Brig. And for one of the few times that I've actually seen while watching this VOD, we say Brig, everybody turns and goes towards the brig, right? We're making the callouts because that's what we know that we're supposed to be doing, but we're not understanding why we need to be making those callouts, right? When Beta got torn down in Nepal and said the whole team turned and looked at me, when he was behind them, that's because their callouts, their team knew how to react to callouts, right? Somebody said Reaper's behind, everybody stopped, even turning their back to our entire team to all turn around, focus fire on Beta for a second, dropped him, and then turned back and engaged in the fight. They then had the man advantage, and that's why they were one of the reasons they were able to overpower us in that circumstance. But here, this is when we actually get it right. We say brig, everybody turns, everybody fires, and there we go.
Leave
Leader.
Lever.
Body blocker. Okay.
Back.
I'm gonna sit here and grab from behind.
I'm gonna sit up top with our diva. Diva, do not leave high ground, by the way. Like when their diva dives, do not leave high ground.
Let me know when they're there, Apollo.
Oh, yeah, they're coming in. They're coming in. No, not yet, not yet, not yet.
Diva's back
Can
down.
now. Formal.
Fun cart. Transit. Rolling it though.
Got one of them inside.
Great. Fantastic.
It's super light, sorry.
Sorry, it's
Break it
behind
up.
us. Low.
When Zara's falling off the map, if you melee her off the map, it counts as a kill.
So once we win these engagements, and I see this a lot when we're playing on defense, we are like when we're playing on defensive maps like Dorado. One, we tend to overextend a little bit, and I know that we're trying to power up our ults and get ourselves ready for the next engagement. One of the other things that I'm not hearing though is the team knowing where our plays are supposed to go, right? So where on Dorado should we be playing? See, this is what's happening during this engagement that we're watching right now. Nobody said, hey, we should be playing, let's play around this corner. Or I need to go check up top and see if they're going to try and snipe us, right? These are little things that we're focusing on yes, we're getting our mechanics down of, brig, let's go ahead and focus at target. By this point in the fight, which we were not doing in the earlier engagements, right, where things are finally starting to click this far into the scrim. But we should be having a game plan going into this, right? This goes back to that thing that I was just talking about when I was saying, hey, at the beginning of a map, let's go ahead and somebody say the shot caller for the lane. Let's go right, let's go mid, let's go left. We should have somebody, and usually it should be probably somebody like our Reinhardt in the front saying, hey, let's play around this corner. Let's work around this because this is their composition. They're going to be probably coming from this direction. So it's kind of work with the map that we have instead of overextending ourselves and allowing ourselves to get shot at, right? We should be playing around those corners and really manipulating the terrain in such a way that we have an advantage.
Wait so long.
That's all melee.
No, I was respawning. I didn't know you were doing it again. Sorry.
Just trying to delay as long as I can.
Hey, I need help getting over there, boys.
No, we're here.
You made it.
I barely am gonna
Alright,
pop.
alright, we say, okay, now they're playing Winston, we just literally sit together.
Here?
No one splits, no one splits.
It
We
jumped us.
go Winston, go Winston.
Oh god.
Do you have bandits? Die bandits, die bandits. Shooter.
Reloading.
Okay, she's bottom left, okay.
Oh my god, Diva ate my
I'm healing.
thing.
Oh fuck, I did it too late. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a little bit too late.
Is anyone here with me?
I'm
Yeah.
here, but I just got moved back by Winston. Oh my god.
I'm coming
Ryan,
back.
can I-
I'm gonna ult one.
Okay, I'm
Don't do it, don't do it.
No, I'm here with you now.
Monkey.
Taking what I can get. Help Apollo.
Oh, I don't know, Diva's lost.
We have
Yeah, they're right now.
nano diva bomb. No.
Hmm.
Let me think what we had.
Oh, I was like, what?
Okay, wait for me to have my ult.
Hey, Anna,
Before
you
we do a
should
bomb.
sit fly further back. Y'all need to play further back too. They have dive. They're just gonna jump the healer.
No, they don't have to have
Play
anymore.
on the
They
rail
don't,
and
they don't have
guys-
to have anymore. They're going left side, left side. You might need to jump down.
Drop
This
down,
way,
drop
jump
down,
this
drop
way, this way, this way.
I got pins.
So how'd the... I don't know how that hit me.
So we get
Wait,
the good call outs in the sense that, we say, okay, well, they've changed, right? But we were mid fight. We had a breather. We had a minute. And instead, we kind of move around a lot here and just kind of say, like, hey, pull back. Hey, do this. But again, we always go back to this every scrim. We need more call outs for when it comes to things like ults. Like going into this engagement, we should have known, hey, they're probably going to have a grav or a hammer. What are the things that we're going to be up against so that we are able to, counter what they're doing, right? It's just, I see it over and over again, and sometimes we get it right. I mean, it's one of those situations that when I saw maybe it was Hanamura earlier, we were looking at it going like, hey, that Zarya is probably going to ult here in a second, and everybody was able to react, and everything went really smoothly. But we're just not getting our call-outs the way that we need to. So again, going back to that concept of clean comms, just because we're saying things in comms doesn't mean that our comms are clean and good and transmitting the information that the team needs to be able to hit our win conditions, right? Just because we're saying Zarya is discorded, that's great. That's an excellent call that we're getting from that. But we're not processing it the way that we need to. And I think that really, at the end of the day, comes down to just how comfortable we are with each other. And right now, as we're looking at things like how we're doing our hero selection, where we're kind of bouncing around our hero selection and saying, who are we going to be playing or who are we comfortable with? Oh, what are they running? They're running goats. Okay, I don't know. I guess we'll run goats too. Or what do we have to counter goats? I feel like all of these questions that we're engaging during the pre-game with, we need to have those solutions out of the box, right? We need to have these solutions in place so when we go into that map, we go in with confidence instead of right now it feels that we're so busy trying to work around each other that that's becoming the detriment to the team. Right, we're looking at it going like, okay, all right, we need a Lucio. I'll play Lucio, I guess, and then that becomes where we have to play around a Lucio that doesn't know how to play Lucio, right? That becomes somebody playing a tank maybe or swapping to a tank and not saying, hey, I'm swapping over to this tank because previous tank isn't working, right? These are just little things that you don't see at the higher levels of Overwatch because they already have this level of comfort with each other. And I get it. We're kind of a slapdash group that is together now and is really trying to make it work. But that means that we need to be communicating more now than ever, right? We need to be inside of that Discord chat and not just saying, when is the next scrim night and answering that question. We should be constantly engaging with each other, right? We have Discord open all the time, right? If it's on our phones and our computers, we should be saying, all right, like who is comfortable like tanking? Like who is comfortable which maps is everybody most comfortable with out of the ones that we've got to face in open division? We should be having these conversations. And the problem that we end up facing, to kind of go back to this concept of mental fatigue, is that we get tilted when we do scrims like this and we say to each other, all right, this is what we need to fix, this is what we need to do, but then everybody goes into radio silence for like 4 days until we're waiting for the next match to happen, unless maybe one or two people hop on and play with each other. You can't just say, all right, well, we're going to do a scrim, we're going to say what went right, what went wrong, and we'll do better next time, right? We need to be acting on the things that we've been taking away from each of these individual scrims. If we're looking at something like, our roster is weak because we don't know what the roster should be, then we need to engage in that conversation. We have 4 days until the next scrim for us to work out a solution to this problem that we're all comfortable with. And that's part of everybody working hand in hand. And it's just one of those things where, I get it, Hum. I mean, the silence is deafening. Every time you hear it, or every time you hear a lot of like BS happening in the chat. You see, when we watch pro streamers, a lot of them are able to be on with their friends and BS and, do silly stuff because they're comfortable, they're playing with people they're comfortable with. They're working with rosters they're comfortable with, so they can do things like become Symmetra in the spawn room, right? But we don't have that luxury. We need so much more communication, and I don't mean just in-game communication. It's even, like I said, in Discord all the time. Always be talking to each other. We need to be asking each other these questions. We should be seeing once a day somebody hopping into just the Discord and saying, "Hey, hey, who from Green Team's on right now? Does anybody want to do some comp, do some quick play? Let's practice our communication, our call-outs." Get accustomed to one another's play styles, because right now it just feels like, and again, I say this so many times at the beginning of this VOD, we are strong individual players, right? But right now we're the Dallas Fuel. We have strong individual players, and that means we're making strong individual plays, but we're not making plays as a team. And that's what's hurting us going into all of these.
Typically, it's going to be on the main tank because you're trying to vial our main tank too.
Yeah, I don't think you have to call out antis, unless it's like a really big anti, because you can hear the sound, and mostly when an anti is up, like everyone will go on that.
Yeah, just keep throwing your nade at Apollo.
So I heard you in the comms there, Hum. And one of the things I will disagree with, in case somebody misses it, if you happen to be like in a Rhine versus Rhine engagement, and the enemy Reinhardt gets antied, like, I want to know that every time, because that gives me a signal to drop my shield and start swinging. But it's situational, right? It's not like a Discord where everybody needs to be focusing on that one thing. I see where you're coming from with the point.
What are we playing here?
There's that question again. What are we playing here?
Whatever you want.
Play it scan.
You can do DPS. You can go like Hanzo or Ashe, and then Kuda can play like Mercy. We'll just go 3.
You wanna go? I can go switch. Switch to Zarya.
We have 3 main.
You're gonna win off Graves, so.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah.
If Crest could go Zen, it'd be OP, but just stay on Mora for now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Not quick enough.
Yeah, I understand. Like I said, it's situational, but I don't think you were completely correct in the sense you don't need to be calling them out every time.
Rotating.
Front point. You can't see anything.
I'm gonna shadow here in a bit.
I
Keep
think
follow up, keep follow up, keep
I
follow
think
up.
that might be the first call that I heard out of all of these bouts I've been watching where we heard, I'm probably going to shatter here.
Yeah, no, that just have no attention.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. This should have let off.
That was me. I actually killed Orion, and then I heard Lee. So
I'm gonna play the right side. Kuda.
I don't know which one.
Noodles, I'm
Okay.
I'm
I'm
going
gonna
right
stick
side.
on him.
Good job,
gonna stay on
Where,
left.
where should I sit?
Mercy can fly over here.
Go for you.
Sit,
Oh,
right by
They
the.
rotated right, so I'm gonna. It was hard to shoot.
Are they on point?
Well, that's not good.
I'm here. They have shatter, they have throws.
I'm grabbing.
I'm chasing Ryan.
Don't kill it. Don't kill the baby diva yet.
No, get her.
No, I get her now. I got her on the way down. No, I didn't.
I'm gonna hide here
If
and
you
also
shoot her-
shatter.
If you shoot her while she's dropping off, it doesn't count, right? You have to
No,
melee her.
it does if she's like dropping, but it has
Oh,
to
she's
be
already
more
jumped.
CC like a melee.
If
Okay.
she's in air, yeah.
Or a right click on Zarya would work, right?
I have Bob.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
No, I'm
Tell-
not nano, but
when you bob, I'm gonna ult them.
They have grab, don't they?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Fire weak. Chasing.
The bot was enormous.
I think this is the most communication,
Alright,
clean
keep it up.
communication I've heard out of all the matches y'all have played.
They have
They
grab.
have a
here.
lot. They have a lot.
They have grab. That's the big one we need to watch out for.
I feel like they're gonna grab me top left because I haven't died. Hey Apollo, if you stay right there and fall back left, I can heal you. But if you go anywhere else, I can't heal you. From my sight line.
They coming in our side, left side.
Fuck, I have
They're
to
going
All
top.
the way top, all the way top. Rotate.
Oh fuck. That was bad.
They're
They're
gonna rotate.
rotating again. They
That's
need
in.
probably drop.
There's one.
You need to fall back.
Yep.
We'll get the mega now. They're down a player. We can. Some can go up there.
I'm gonna go cams in.
Yeah. Fair enough. They're dropping now. Yeah.
That is.
Fuck, dude. Ryan, did you not?
No. They stunned me again.
Damn.
Yeah, that's what they all do. Every single time.
Yep.
They stun me.
Fortunate.
They stun me or they charge me.
I was just wondering because I was like, you probably could have blocked that, but
No.
Yeah, you tried.
that's why I was asking.
They've done that like every single time. Either charged or stunned.
Yeah, and what I was saying earlier in the VOD as well, was that a lot of what I hear when I talk about the clean comms isn't just the brig part of it. It's the we have a really bad habit of trying to explain our plays in the middle of the match. So like we're in the middle of a play and somebody will die, and somebody will say that person who died will be like, "I'm sorry, I was trying to blank," when that section of communication should have been wait till after the play is done if you want to say anything like that. But honestly, those comments I feel don't need to be within the round as much. We should be thinking about what we're communicating, not just trying to say, I'm sorry, I did this wrong or I did this. Those are things that for after the match, our communication needs to really stick on point with like, what are our call outs? What is our direction that we're going, right? These are two key elements. And then what do we need to swap to? What do we do? What's our win condition? Let's narrow down the conversation till we're comfortable enough with each other's play styles where we can do those things. But we need to kind of be hitting these, 3 or 4 key points of what basically needs to be getting said at any given time during any round that we're in, instead of, oh, I'm sorry, I was trying to go fuck a goat or something. There's no need for that filler during these. And these are hard habits to break. I understand it's a weird specific thing to talk about because I do it all the time too, right? Like I'll die as Ryan in a comp match. I'm like, I'm sorry, I was trying to make room. But the team is better served with all of us trying to really practice having more exact things that we're saying, so that we're communicating what is most beneficial to the team and not just kind of fluffing it.
Yeah, summer should be good. Oh, yeah, I run a brick too, or
I don't know. Brig it out or just here or what?
Yeah, I think this is.
Yeah, this would be better. Are you serious?
Unfair mercy.
Yeah, and Hanzo. Found that out.
Monkey weak.
back out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to make it out.
Oy.
Fucking once they just gonna jump me.
We need to switch. We gotta.
See, there's that silence again.
I kind of want to go Tracer, and we played a.
There's like a silence and an indecision about what the next play was that just kind of blew 15 seconds off the clock. Somebody should. I'm switching to this. I'm moving to this position. Whatever we need to be saying there.
Tracer combo.
Right, there we are. We're filling our time with this is what we could be doing while we're in the middle of the fight.
Then I'm on the right side.
Yeah, I'm going on
I don't have demon for you.
I don't think.
You're low, Apollo. I'm putting like all my healing on you.
I
Oh shit, you died. Okay, well,
I couldn't help do that, sorry.
this is gonna be fun.
I'm just gonna reset. I'm getting off
Yeah,
some.
I reset.
This fucking Pharah, dude. can get her to half, but I need help from Diva.
We need a Zen. We need a
Yeah.
Give
Zen.
them.
We go up there.
Someone
Wait up,
else
Apollo.
We have both support ults. Let's use them as fight, and then we need to swap for a Zen or some shit.
Okay, Krita can go Zen.
I'm gonna push him off.
Where's the Pharah?
Up in the sky, where she always is.
I just don't see her.
Oh, you're down, you're down.
Diver.
Someone help me with Winston.
Okay.
Fuck, dude, I killed their Mercy though. Like we can.
No,
group
we
up and go
need
in.
we going down. Then.
Yeah.
Dead.
Okay, go.
Okay, we going with this ult. Ready?
Okay.
Good. Now.
Speed us, speed us, speed us.
Their Mercy's
Come
back
on.
at spawn. You
Hanzo's low, Hanzo's low, Hanzo's low.
I made a ult.
Oh, this one.
His ult. They used 3 ults at fight.
They're gonna be down a res right here.
They're down then ult too.
So
Alright.
if we
DPS
can
ults.
get a pick, they don't have anything.
I think you guys. I think you jump Hanzo.
Oh, top
Or
right.
just try to. Cause someone contest Hanzo. Like I can too, but.
Not there yet.
Come back, Apollo. Or not.
He's on
Just-
Apollo.
Getting random ass picks.
I'm on Heather right now. I'm pulling him. I'm gonna kill Anthem.
Honda's dead. Nice.
Sucks
I'm
in.
Mercy, Mercy, I'm Mercy. Mercy ready? I'm on you.
Spot me, Winston on me. Okay, I'm dead.
Big monkey.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean everything that I've talked about earlier,
already
kind of in
did
the
that.
VOD, is whatever powwow,
Oh my God,
or the
you gotta
powwow that you
go.
guys had between these bouts.
That
I
was
mean,
really
you could
nice,
tell that
Lola.
it's paying off
It
and
is
it's
so
working
nice.
because the communication does feel cleaner.
That was impressive.
It's still not, especially for a dive comp, not as tight as it needs to be. But you guys are able to actually make
Yeah,
and execute
we'll
on
get up there.
plays with one
I can
another.
bomb the sky.
Again, this all comes down
Two
to
there. Apollo.
comfort with one another's play styles. Again,
done.
I feel like because we're still so getting used to how one another plays and which heroes we're pulling from, we're not able to make the bigger plays that we should be doing. I know Apollo was saying earlier in the VOD that he was getting really frustrated because they kept using a Rhine Diva combination for a hammer plus Diva bomb, and it was really frustrating. And my sentiment regarding that was one, this team obviously plays together quite a bit and has really good rapport and communication with one another. But two, what could we be doing to counter that? If we know that's the situation, if we've seen them do it 3 times, our win condition at that point becomes, hey, we need to be countering this particular play style that's coming at us. How do we do that?
Over here.
Pharah's
Nice.
dead. Go
Go on,
Pharah.
go on.
Go.
He's ready.
Jade,
I'm on
get
her.
my pulse.
I'm on Zen right now.
Ow. Thought we had him. Monkey.
Dead.
Uh-oh. On Diva, on Diva.
I'm with you.
Nice bubble.
I'm Mercy.
Fuck me.
I'm Mercy. Mercy almost dead.
There's a Hanzo behind you
Push
guys.
it.
Oh, I see him.
I'm on ball. Oh, that's the one ball.
I need some help. He's dead.
Zen.
Oh my God.
Just,
This
yeah.
is one though. Nice.
Boss weak.
They're just stalling
Diva.
right now.
Yep. We gotta go Panther first.
Good.
No, we need 5 factors.
Good job.
We always were good at Volskaya, right? Volskaya has always been our map. Yeah, this is... even Hanamura was a bit rough. Like, this is the first time it really feels like everybody's starting to come together, everything's being cohesive, everybody's communicating properly. You guys
the last
become
one?
comfortable with dive,
Or do you know that
right?
one?
And, as opposed to the earlier ones where you guys picked dive and were just... a Discord would go up and everybody would die afterwards. And, there was no focus, no communication on that part. Again, we still need to get our lanes figured out. We need to come out swinging at that point and know which lane we're going to. We should know which hero pool we're pulling from. These are all things that we can work on over the week, right? We don't need to be having a scrim to work on these things. We just need to be in Discord being like, all right, so here's pick a map a day, right? And make that the discussion topic, a map a day, and say like, I don't know, Busan. All right, so what heroes are good here? Which heroes are we comfortable with here? Let's just make it almost a homework assignment that we just have these discussions with each other, because right now it feels like, you know, we're struggling to get to our scrim, and then we get to our scrim and everybody gets in the scrim and everybody's quiet, even though we've been warming up beforehand. And the first question that's asked in 90% of these reviews that I've done today is, you know, what's everybody playing? What's everybody doing? Which lane are we going to? And we need to just be eliminated. There should not even be questions for us at this point, working in something like Open Division and moving forward. And I get it. We're a hodgepodge team. We're trying to really be more focused. But if every one of these matches, the same two questions are asked, you know, which way are we going and what heroes are we pulling from, then we should know as a team what our homework assignment for the week is, right? It shouldn't be a question of, oh, well, how can we improve? Because I can sit there and do this for 2 more hours and go play by play and really, you know, sit there, draw on this and do a whole bunch of stuff. But the biggest takeaway that we should have from this is that if those 2 questions are our consistent issue, and that's causing us to stall leaving out of the spawn, and 2, messing up all of our engagements because we're not properly configured or we're playing heroes that we're not comfortable with, then how do we answer those 2 questions so that we're never asking them ever again? That's the goal at that point.
We're running a dive again like we were just a minute ago, or how is this mecha based?
There's the question. Are we running dive again?
Prepare for battle. Select your hero.
Are you gonna do what y'all did on quick play?
Own them.
Can.
Everybody here?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
If we're running dive, are we running dive?
Not on this one. Like a base.
Okay. What do we want for the other healer? Because we have dive DPS with 2/2/2 tank
You
or
want to do dive?
ghost tank.
You could do dive if you want to.
Yeah, let's try it one time, yeah.
Wait, why are we playing dive? Just go back to Renzar.
And there it is.
Alright.
Right. We're in a position where we are 5 seconds before the match, and we keep asking ourselves, are we going dive? Okay, well, I guess we're not going dive. Then we switch to dive. It's a back and forth that we seem to be having, and that's making everybody confused as soon as the match starts, right? That instantly psychologically puts us at a disadvantage when we're not comfortable enough with what we're playing.
This one's on the monkey. Oh.
That's a shit ton of damage fast. I don't know if we have.
I was on that Zen the entire time and I got him, but that's not good. If they're running dive, we should probably switch because Ryan's just gonna keep getting dope. Do you want to go Brig or something after I ult?
Yeah, that might be best.
Over here. Oops.
Zen's left by himself.
They're all left.
This squad's on the big. This squad on monkey in the back line.
Can't do it.
This squad's on the Zarya.
Yep.
Just
They're on the left,
this
they're on the
squad on
left.
the diva.
Get it by yourself, get it by yourself on the right side.
Brig, brig, brig.
Squad on the big.
He was just still on point by himself, dude.
Trying to turn them back to get pressure off you guys.
Mahogany, do you have?
I thought we were switching to dive. That's
Well,
well.
we have GP Shatter now, so.
Okay.
Right here on me. Are you guys here?
Good bad you.
No,
Push
yeah.
to me, push to me, push to me.
He's gonna run out.
Sec.
After the bubble, I'm gonna shatter.
Go. I'm done. Maybe.
On the
I mean, Adrian's.
No, Zarya.
Look how we split like that. Go back a couple seconds.
I'm done. Maybe.
on the
I mean, Adrian's.
No.
This is all kind of going back to that thing that I just talked about, where we don't have a shot caller for our direction. And I get it, it's towards the end of the round, things are kind of hectic, but this isn't just a end of the round routine that I'm seeing with the team, right? We get out, we go in, and as soon as we go in, we've got, we got our support, and they're all going out this way, and then we decide to go ahead and split and head over this way. And this is so indicative of what I saw so many times watching the earlier parts of the VOD, where you're in Nepal and you're already to the ramp where you're supposed to be deciding right or left, and somebody says, where are we going, right? Again, this is beating the dead horse with this, but we have to really be not to put too fine a point on it, hammer this thing home to everyone, that we should be comfortable with every map and what direction the team should be playing on every map as we go into it. If that's our Ryan saying let's go right, that's fine. Let's do it that way. It's something that we definitely need to work on.
Yeah, it's hard for me to hear sometimes. It's crackling up too.
Sometimes people sound robotic.
How do I change the server?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What,
Yeah, okay,
What
so on Lone Star Vanguard at the top, you go to server settings.
pause it or something.
Well, don't do it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's working now. Just play with it.
I didn't know what happened in the last fight at all. This robot comes.
God, I can't.
See, there's that silence again. Everybody engaged in that fight, they pushed
There we
forward,
go.
and
Back
everybody
up.
went dead
Back up,
silent
three
right there.
dive.
There was no call-outs,
Two
no
dive.
focuses. We'll ask ourselves at this point, if we're going to be running a Pharah, why aren't we running a Mercy, to go alongside it? Why are we going with the Moira Lucio pick, right? Is it a comfort thing, right? Or is it because we're
They're on the right side. all on the
doing
right
what
side.
we always say we do, and we say we need a Lucio here, and
Monkey's
nobody
low.
knows how to play
Monkey
Lucio.
Monkey's low.
Break on the side of us.
Well, Lucia's behind us.
Back.
I'm stunned. Okay.
Kuda, can you go Mercy or
Where?
something?
There we go. All right. But we should have made that decision beforehand, right? We should have said if we need to pharmacy cheese it, let's make that decision early on to make that, instead of again fighting in the spawn room and deciding, is this what we're doing or not doing?
I don't look, yes. No point. You ready, going?
He's there outside. Yeah,
They're going right side.
they're all on me.
I'm with you. I'm trying to feel for you. Just I can.
Yeah, I know.
See, when we're in this,
What are we targeting?
we've got to dive, and we're not focusing our targets. I keep just going to it and going to it, but I have to keep saying it until we get it through our heads at that point. You know, if we're playing
Whatever, yeah,
dive,
but then
call
this isn't
targets,
working,
focus
so-
targets, or else you will lose the
Bubble, yeah.
engage every single
Yeah.
time. Dive tanks are
You
weak
go.
tanks and have to be working together.
We'll have to have our diva DM you.
There's the silence. What are their alts? What are our alts? What information should we be filling that space with to keep every single one of our players informed at all times?
Sorry, Sorry first.
Holy shit, dude. Yeah, Winston's on the side, I think.
Yeah, he backed off.
There's Arya's 1 HP. Dude.
Come through the window.
Winston.
Monkey behind.
Oh, he comes so far back.
Fucking hell, dude. There's Zen's dead.
All right, so I think we're far enough in at this point where I can kind of wrap up the VOD and the review and talk about what I've seen so far. The long and short of it is, and I know I keep going back to it, we are very strong individual players. We see this every time. You know, we have people like Noodles and Beta popping off. You know, we do have our healers backing a lot of the plays, or trying to do the best that they can. But our key takeaways from scrims this week have to be focusing targets and clean communication, right? Those on top of being comfortable with our roster is killing us, right? We're not comfortable with our roster. We're not comfortable with how we're going to handle our engagements. Do we go left? Do we go right? What do we do when we leave a spawn room, right? We have these fights every single one of these matches that I watched today over the course of a couple hours. That's all I saw was who do we play? Where do we go? What are we doing, right? And until we're able to get that focus, and this is just as simple as us doing homework over the week, right? We've been saying it for months. Make a spreadsheet. Who's good at what? What are we doing? We need to ask ourselves the hard questions right now. What is it that we're missing? I know that Hummy said maybe we need a main tank, right? All right, so let's take that into consideration. But right now we're being reactive. We're kind of going in, doing a scrim earlier week or 2 scrims earlier in the week, warming up before an open division match, and then kind of repeating the process. And while we may talk about what went right and what went wrong during said matches, we're not following through on those things over the course of the week. And again, that silence is deafening. I don't just want to hear when we go into a match, again, don't ask ourselves what heroes are we playing. That's a discussion we should have been having in Discord over the course of the week. We should have been saying like, hey, everybody, like, just answer whenever you can. What heroes are you more comfortable with? I'm going to start a chart. Or what maps are you strongest and weakest on? When we go into Nepal or Hanamura, what comp should we be using? You know, every day we should be learning something new about our team. And we do that by asking questions. And, you know, it doesn't have to be, here's a sheet of 50 questions that I need you to fill out on Google Forms. It's like, hey, all right, question of the day for Monday. You know, where in Hanamura should we, attack from? Should we go right or left? What should we be doing? What hero pools are we going to use? Which configurations are we most comfortable with, right? Are we comfortable with dive? If we are, then how do we become better as dive players, right? We get to have those follow-up questions like, yeah, we all love to play dive. Cool. All right, so we're all dive players. We need to really be focusing on those call-outs. What do we need to do that? Well, we need somebody to call out what direction we're going, and we need somebody to call out who our target that we're jumping on is, right? And so all these things are not difficult, right? Again, we're all very mechanically skilled. I've seen us, be super badass in a lot of games that we've played. But then we go to things like some of these scrims that we're looking at, and then we just freeze up. We get quiet. We become reserved, and that's not what we need to be doing during these things. Obviously, we need to be louder. We need to take out less of the filler talk and put more of the important talk in there. And again, we need to be engaging with each other over the course of the week, because if we're not constantly learning more about each other as players, then we go into each of these matches as strangers completely, right? We go in there going, what are we going to do? What are we going to play? How is this going to play out? And we don't need to be doing that, right? We're better than that. So it's just something that we need to be thinking about. And that needs to be our one big takeaway, is that our communication needs to kick up not only in game, but also out of game as we move forward and working on things like open division. We need to be more comfortable with our rosters, and this all of this starts with the way that we handle our communication. So I will have our VOD review up on the Discord shortly. Obviously, I've gone through all of it at this point. During the first part of it, Apollo came in and we kind of talked a little bit about what he saw and what he thought went right and wrong. So yeah, thanks a lot, everyone.